Okay, 3, 2, 1. Good evening. Tonight I've got something a little bit different planned. Don't have any games in particular ready, but that's okay because we're going to talk about games nevertheless. I've not yet sent out any notifications, but soon I expect people will be rolling in here, and I expect we'll be here for quite a while, because tonight I'm going to be listing off my top 50 games of all time. There's some extra criteria to that, I'll explain it later, but I have prepared a graphic, so I'm going to go ahead and send out my notifications and get it set up in OBS. Be with you guys in a second. Look forward to it. and unmute myself while we get things established. Let me see here. Do I already have a tab here for interacting with stuff? my PC. I have this, but it's clearly not up to date. Well, that's alright. We can change it out a little bit. Man, it's been a while since I used this. I don't even have like preparations necessary to use the little chat window on the right. Yep, not prepared for that at all. I think I'm just gonna start an entirely new thing. So let's do it. That name is already in use, but it's not for a scene collection. Why can't you let me use it? Well, tell you what. How about we just work with what we've got right here? I'll go ahead and hide this. Yeah, Starfield can go. Don't need an internet window, don't need Piranha Plant for now. I'm just gonna go ahead and rename this to what it is. Call it a P-Plant. Yeah, Santa, you can go as well. What we really need is, first of all, I need to update what exactly I'm doing here. Should I call it a top 50 games or a favorite 50 games? That feels a little bit more accurate, so we'll do that. I may as well go ahead and establish some ground rules. Actually, hang on a minute. Do I have the pause music from Planet Robobot? That would be great for getting this set up. Let's see here. Yeah, that'll do. As peculiar as it sounds. Maybe I should have gone with the Ice Cream Factory music. So, yeah, I'll just go ahead and duplicate this text, make a new thing. Alright, so, ground rules for what we're doing here. For a game to qualify for this list, I have to have played it. Specifically, I must have played at least 50% of the game. I'm actually thinking of doing a postscript section after this list is done, if we have time for it. Listing up, excuse me, listing up my worst games, my least favorite games. And there's a lot of crappy games that are not going to make that list, because I haven't played them enough. Like, for a game to qualify for my worst games, I have to have at least completed half of it. But same goes for the good games, so we'll be doing that. What else? Well, actually, I guess that's the only thing that makes a game qualify. It can be for any console, any developer, any genre, but you'll notice some distinct favoritism in the genres that I have listed. So while we've got that going, I'm gonna go ahead and try to get the GIMP window open and ready to edit. There we go. It's a little bit off, but nothing I can't fix. Oh, actually, that's kind of a problem. Okay. Another little problem came up with regards to me using multiple, like, screens. So in order for this to work, I have to have GIMP open on my primary screen and stream window on the secondary screen. But that's okay. So we'll do that. I feel like I need something going in the background. I suppose I could turn the Starfield back on. Yeah, sure, why not? What else? Yeah, that's pretty good to start with. Just make sure I haven't missed anything. Alright, I gotta make sure I'm starting from the right section, because what we're going to be doing here, you can see my little mouse icon here. What we're going to be doing is I have covered up each panel with these gray bars, and as I declare what I am reading off, we'll be, like, unhiding them. So we'll turn the opacity from one to the other. But of course, I have the entire layer selected, so that's just going to make everything vanish. So yeah, on the right you'll see the game name. On the left you'll see an image of the game in question. Am I lecturing tonight? No. I'm just talking about games that I like. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I finally got a list cobbled together. I worked on it months ago and then kind of just left it until I finally got off my butt and assembled everything into a top 50 list. And it got messy. Let me tell you, it got real messy. Can I turn off these guides, by the way? Let me see here. Show guides, do not show guides. Show... Okay, don't show layer boundary. That's much better. So yeah, I could... It was a lot easier to organize my favorite games by genre. So like, I'll bring up the full list just in case I need to reference it at any point. Alright, I'll sort by the column. I made an entire friggin' spreadsheet for this. So, yeah, using this I was able to determine, for example, that my least favorite 3D platformers, in order from worst to not quite as worst, would be Donkey Kong 64, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Wario World, Sonic Adventure Deluxe, and Super Mario Sunshine. But that's not entirely indicative of their quality. That just means that I haven't played that many 3D platformers, and the ones that I have stuck with were, you know, pretty solid experiences, and that's why I stuck with them. So, the bottom 5 is gonna be weird if I get around to that. Anyway, I guess now's a good time to get started. Oh, another thing I'll be doing is playing music from a few of these games. So, what are we starting off with? Number 50 in my list is Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations, a Phoenix Wright title, 3rd in the series. Let me see if I've got good music for that. I should have the entire soundtrack from the Game Boy Advance series. That's from Apollo Justice. Which is pretty good. Like, one thing you can absolutely always say about the Ace Attorney games is that they have fantastic music. Okay, I think I found it. So... we will start with... this is a personal favorite of mine. Oh, I see a PogChamp in there. Hello. Oh, hey, Miss, you made it to the chat too. I thought you were busy streaming your own thing. Well, I'm glad you could be here. But yeah, starting off with a visual novel of all things. You just finished, I just started. Alright, let's do this. So yeah, I wasn't sure if any visual novels were even going to make this list, but here it is. What can I say about Trials and Tribulations? It's got some of the best characters that's ever been written in this series. You can see Gato on the right there, with his crazy goggles. Like, he has a compelling design, but then his attitude and behavior, like, he's just this mystery prosecutor that antagonizes Phoenix personally, for reasons that start to make sense and really hit you in the gut when you start cracking open the mysteries that the game has to present to you. It's just an all-around fantastic experience, and easily the best of the original trilogy. But is it the best in the entire franchise? I don't think so. You'll see one more Ace Attorney game on this list, but I'm not going to spoil what it is just yet. Moving on, number 49. Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. By the way, how do you like this format? It took me a while to come up with it, but I think this is pretty effective at showing the games in order and, like, revealing them. But yeah, The Wind Waker. Kind of a hard choice as to which Zelda games I like the best, but definitely The Wind Waker had an impact on me. I don't know if it was the art style, or if it was the adventure, or maybe it was just the down-to-earth, like, grounded nature of the story as you start out. Like, Zelda is nowhere to be seen until, like, the second half of the story. The beginning is you as just a kid assuming the mantle of Link the hero. You know, not a direct relation or anything, not like Link to the Past where you're the son of a chosen bloodline or anything like that. No, you're just a kid, your island's got this tradition of passing down these clothes, and then your sister gets kidnapped by a bird. And who are your first companions? A bunch of pirates. With the pirate Captain Tetra being an especially memorable character. There's just a lot about the world of The Wind Waker that I like. Now, you can have your... Oh, shoot. Does this music not loop? Oh, wow. What do you know? It's an MP3. Alright, I guess I gotta load something else in. These are supposed to loop. Do I even have Wind Waker music? I should, but I think these are also MP3s, so... Eventually, we're going to have to change it. Yeah, this is going to be a work in progress until we get around to looping music. So anyway, I think I've said my piece about that. The gameplay is hit or miss depending on how you feel about 3D Zeldas. They're very streamlined. But hey, at least you get to explore the ocean. Which is favorite soundtrack? Like, my favorite soundtrack from any game ever. That's a tough one. Certainly, it depends on the day of the day of the week that you ask me. Lately, I've been way into Sonic music. Other days, I'll be way into, like, Mario RPG music. I don't know. I may have a more concrete answer for you as we go along, because there are definitely more games to be seen. So, going on to number 48 is a game that I did not play until recently. Blaster Master Zero. I actually did a live stream series of this, and I didn't expect it to resonate with me quite as much as it did. I never played the original Blaster Master. And, honestly, it was an excellent pioneer in, like, the Metroidvania genre, or what do people prefer to call it nowadays? Search action, or something like that. But anyway, the new coat of paint that it got on the Switch... Did it release on the Switch, or did it first release on, like, Wii U eShop or something like that? I don't know. But I first played on the Switch and had a great time with it, and you know what? The DLC is actually pretty fantastic. Gives you a whole bunch of other characters from indie games to choose from, like Shantae and Shovel Knight. I was really disappointed to see that they didn't have any of that in the sequel, Blaster Master Zero 2. What, did you think the sequel would be called Blaster Master 1? Nah. Yeah, in addition to the solid gameplay and the really popping, like, art style that it goes for, I was also really moved by the story. It's pretty basic. It's a simple, like, love story between a human and an android, but, I don't know, it kept me going. It kept me going along. I'm gonna have to change the dimensions of my window here, because I can only see, like, 7 chat messages at a time. So yeah, that was an unexpected favorite there. What do we have next? Half-Life 2. Another one that I wasn't sure if it was going to make the list or not. Also, this is a little bit distracting going over the white text there. That's better. Yeah, Half-Life 2. Any fan of this series will definitely sing its praises, like, to high heaven and back. But me, I just had an all-around solid experience with it, and Gary's mod didn't hurt in that regard, as you can see from the screenshot here. It's probably the most fun I've had with a straightforward, you know, shooty-bang-bang game. Aside from Team Fortress 2, which, well, okay, spoilers, Team Fortress 2 was placed higher in the list. But as far as, like, single-player shooty game goes, this is probably the most fun I've had. And the experiments that it does with the physics engine definitely help with that. The vehicle segments were 50% amazing, 50% horse droppings. Like the hoverboat, how did they script the land vehicle so bad when the hoverboat was so much fun to use? Like, I kind of just want to replay that chapter right now because of how fun it was. And then you got Ravenholm, all the zombies creeping about. I thought that I would hate that section, but the weapons they give you are just really powerful. Only held back by their limited ammunition. I may as well have been playing a Doom map for all the good that was doing me. I should probably play that game someday. Because probably there's a deep history behind first-person shooters that I have only slightly been initiated with. But hey, if they built up to something as great as Half-Life 2, then they're probably worth checking out, even for a guy like me that has avoided them his whole life. Alright, next one. I think every 5 games or so I'm going to change the music. Just for the sake of, keeping the flow going. 46, Stardew Valley. Probably my favorite simulation-type game out there. Farm sim, whatever you want to call it, life sim, dating sim, even. Not much of a dating sim, but if I had to pick one to play again, it would be this one. FPS games can be great when they have a good single-player campaign. You don't see that all that often, depending on where you're looking. Although I'm partially talking out my ass because I obviously don't follow those games, so I don't know how many of them go out of their way to give good first-person experiences. Although from what I've heard, Doom is a stellar example of that, and even recent games in the series have been doing a bang-up job of that. What is there to say about Stardew Valley? I'll tell you something about Harvest Moon. That series has been disappointing me more and more, every single year after I finished Harvest Moon 64 as a teenager. I moved on from that to the GameCube game, and found it boring, frankly. Did you know the deal with Harvest Moon? I know that it's not called Harvest Moon anymore, it's like Song of Seasons or something. The new Harvest Moon games aren't Harvest Moon. Well, yes. Hang on a minute, gotta take a drink. But I had noticed something was, starting to slip a little bit, even as far back as the GameCube game. And when I looked for future games in the series, they just looked worse and worse. They looked more I don't know. I wasn't digging the overly cutesy chibi aesthetic they were going for, even though I guess that's what made me fall in love with the N64 game? I don't know. I was looking for something, and the newer games in the series just weren't quite hitting that. Rune Factory was a good alternative, but I haven't really gotten around to, investing much time in those games, so maybe someday a Rune Factory game will creep higher on this list than Stardew Valley, but this is pretty much all the quality of life features you could possibly want in a game of this genre, bundled into one nice, neat little package. And it's overall just a feel-good game to play. And the great amount of customization options certainly don't hurt. Customization in terms of how you dress, how your farm is laid out, and even your character's sexuality, if you want to swing that way. The next Harvest Moon game is going to be a direct remake of the Game Boy one, so people are pretty excited, but they're going to have a hard time competing with Stardew Valley now that there's, online multiplayer. I still have not yet given that a shot. I know there's at least one person in my friend circle that really wants to do that. But it's going to be a while before I can find the time to dive back into that again. We should play it. Oh, you're interested too? I'll have to think about that. I'll catch up with you in a message about that some other time. Alright, next game in the series. This time I'm going to... Next game in the list, rather. This time I'm going to play the music before I reveal it. Let me see here. Yeah, yeah, Cave Story. What a humble little game to make a top 50 list. It kind of just erupted out of obscurity one day. No one quite knows how, but it is just an extremely solid Metroidvania game that you can't go wrong with. A really good story from start to finish, and pretty unique and fun, like, shooting mechanics. Like, leveling up your guns, that was something that I hadn't really seen before. And also, this is an MP3, it's gonna cut out after, like, a single minute. So I need to... Did I move all of my looping music files somewhere else? Is that why I can't see them anymore? Because this is quickly going to become a problem. Okay, well that's one loop, that's all you're getting out of this music. Oh yeah, music too, also fantastic in Cave Story. Characters as well, fantastic. You see this little fella right here with the big grin? That's Balrog. He was basically Papyrus before Papyrus existed. I have no doubt in my head that Toby Fox took a lot of inspiration from Cave Story in the making of Undertale. And speaking of which, where the heck did Undertale fall in my top games list? Because it didn't make the 50. Where is it? Oh, I see the problem. I have 45 RPGs in the list that I had to pick through and get, like, the top several to put in this top 50 list, and unfortunately, Undertale currently ranks as my 15th favorite RPG. Now, it's a solid effort. It beat out games like Pokemon Black 2, White 2, and Miitopia, and even Lisa the Painful, but, yeah, other games, especially the Mario RPGs, I just flat out enjoy better, so sorry, Undertale. Maybe another year. What have we got next in the list? I can only see part of the name, so I'm gonna have to guess at what music to play. I think I want one from a Game Boy Advance game. Alright, this is not the correct game, but it's close. And hey, this time it's not an MP3, so I can keep talking without having to worry about the playlist. Hang on a minute. What? This is out of order. Okay, fine. Well, spoilers for one coming up later, but, okay. Oops, sorry, I got the order wrong. This next one's actually Psychonauts. And I can guarantee you I don't have proper looping music for this game. This game's soundtrack is kind of all over the place, last I checked. It's very divided, and different parts of the music will play depending on where you are and what you're doing. If I'm remembering correctly, I need to play this again. Definitely one of the best 3D platformers I've ever sunk my teeth into. With a fantastic premise, and a very unique blend of, like, your typical collectathon fare and, like, point-and-click RPG... Sorry, point-and-click adventure game, like, tropes. Tropes? No, like, mechanics, like... Okay, what's a good example? The, inside of Boyd Cooper's head, you know, the Milkman conspiracy, that is basically a point-and-click adventure map. But you explore it as a 3D platforming area. You don't really fight much of anything. In fact, the little encounters with the nightmare monsters almost seem shoehorned into the experience. The rest of it is literally just going around talking to people and finding items so that you can bypass roadblocks and eventually find the Milkman. But yeah, aside from that, the whole concept, like, building up the world of Psychonauts is very interesting and thought-provoking. Of these, like, secret agents that delve into the minds of people to, well, heck, why do the Psychonauts do what they do? I suppose it could be considered a form of psychotherapy? But... Huh, yeah, they didn't really go into the lore all that deep, did they? Well, It seems as though the organization of the Psychonauts is going to be explored very heavily in the sequel, which I still don't know when that's coming out. But yeah, look forward to Psychonauts 2. It's probably... Considering how long that game's been in development, I sincerely hope that it will eclipse Psychonauts on this list of mine, and becomes a phenomenal experience for all to enjoy. Oh, and did I mention the wide variety of art styles they had going for it? There was a goddamn Black Velvet level, for crying out loud. How often do you see that? I could go on and on, but I gotta keep this list moving. This one I accidentally spoiled a second ago, but it is Fire Emblem, the Blazing Blade, also known as Fire Emblem in the United States. It was the first one to come over, and honestly, it was a pretty solid one. It's actually very different compared to your usual flavor of Fire Emblems, as evidenced by the starting chapters, where you take control of just an ordinary girl from the nomadic plains seeking to help a long-lost family member. Doesn't open up with quite the same, you know, you're a besmirched royal rising up against an evil empire, all that. That happened in the prequel, but here it takes a far more interesting approach. The evil empire is off doing their own thing, building up, just being themselves. You don't really have anything to do with Burn, the kingdom. Your focus is on this guild of assassins that is, like, personally meddling in your family's affairs and plotting behind the scenes to destroy the world, basically. But, I mean, the fact that it's just a low-key guild of assassins rather than an almighty army definitely changes the flavor of the story as you're going through it. Feels a lot more personal with regards to the characters, and I've found that that's something that I greatly appreciate with Fire Emblem games. This is only the first of many that'll appear on this list. Next up, what have we got? Ooh, this one's a classic. Donkey Kong Country! Yes, indeedy, I livestreamed this probably more than once. It's a nice, quick, easy experience to get into, and funnily enough, this may be one of the earliest examples of games being designed for speedrunning. They have these interesting little tidbits built into the levels to encourage people to go through them quickly, you know, pile through enemies with rolling attacks chained together, do like rolling jumps to get across huge gaps, find warp barrels, things like that. But it has its share of secrets to dig up if you're so inclined to do more exploration. I know I was. And I don't even know why. The game doesn't really, like, encourage you to go for that. There's no secret ending or anything like that. You'll just get a congratulations from Cranky, I think. And I didn't care about Cranky back then. He was mean. He made fun of me in the instruction booklet. But nevertheless, bonuses, like, they're just fun to find, and Donkey Kong Country was just a blast to play through. I don't know what else there is to be said about Donkey Kong Country. Shoot. I turned off the music too quick. Alright, let's move on to the next song. Assuming that I can get through this list. I've got too many friggin' songs related to this next game, including Game Boy music, which is not what I'm looking for. Ooh, I've got a remix album, but that's not what I'm looking for. Don't mind me, I'm just being picky and choosy. Wait, do I have multiple albums here? Hold on a minute. I don't remember downloading these. Ooh. This could be interesting. Oh. Okay, never mind. Those are MIDI remixes. Those don't count. I admire the effort, but that's not what I'm looking for. Let me hear that start up again. That's not what I clicked. That is absolutely not what I clicked. Fine. Yeah, next game on the list is obviously Donkey Kong the arcade game. Nah, here's the real next game. And it's one that I'm preparing to livestream on this very channel, Donkey Kong Country 2. That was a lot of build-up just for going from DKC 1 to DKC 2. But they are damn fine games, probably some of the best that the Super Nintendo has ever had to offer. And honestly, I was kind of flip-flopping on where to place one over the other. And ultimately, I decided that Donkey Kong Country 2 was a better fit for a higher rank because of the added challenge and the increased focus on 100%ing the game. Yes, that is an extra challenge that you can take upon yourself to find all the bonus rooms, get access to extra hard levels, and fight the final boss a second time to end the game once and for all. I'm also a big fan of the pirate motif. It's like Donkey Kong Country 1 had a very vague military motif with the Kremlings, but it didn't really persist all that much. Donkey Kong Country 3 kind of industrial, I guess, but the only enemies that really reinforced that were the mechanical bees. Like, even your rank-and-file Kremlings were, like, less decorated than they were in the first game, but DKC 2, they take that pirate theme and run with it all the way. As you can see in this promo art that has a big, scary pirate skeleton chasing after you in a library. That was an awesome level, even if it did, like, scare the schmeckles out of me back when I was a kid. Just an all-around fantastic experience. And I promise we're gonna get out of the 2D platformers very soon. You can clearly see where my biases are. I have a great love of platformers and RPGs. And the next one is another platformer. It's Kirby Superstar. With probably one of the best screenshots I've ever found for this game. I was looking up, like, I was picking and choosing what images to plant in here, and I feel lucky that I was able to find this because it just so perfectly encapsulates what I love about this game. The vibrant colors, the epic showdown at the end in Milky Way Wishes, and the fact that you can do two-player co-op for, like, the first or maybe second time in Kirby history. I don't know, did Kirby's Dream Land 3 come first? I forget. But, heck, the action was fast and furious, and we haven't gotten anything quite like it since then. And I mean that. I mean that. Every other Kirby game since this appears to have gotten slower. You can fact-check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that Kirby Superstar is the fastest of the fast when it comes to the hot and heavy action. Oh, and the soundtrack is fantastic. That's why I prefer it over the DS version. Because let me play you an example real quick. Let me see, is this right? Is this the Super Nintendo version? No, that's the 3DS version. That's not what I'm looking for. I've got it in here somewhere. Where are you? Well, I found the DS version. Okay, fine, that'll do. That's a little bit stilted, isn't it? It's like truncated. And I know that Kirby soundtracks have a reputation of being very percussive. But compare that to this, and tell me if you can hear the difference. Like, I've listened to this on, like, road trips with the bass turned up, and it just feels, like, booming, impactful. I love it. There's something about the SNES sound chip that I just adore. And that's why I open up, like, 80% of my live streams with Super Nintendo music nowadays. I should probably find something a little bit less impactful to continue with this list with. Let me see, how about this one? Yeah, that's a pretty good one. had a mini game where you line up a swinging ball and hit the ground to crack through the earth. Yes, that was Megaton Punch. And that was also included in the collection. Yeah, that's another great thing about Superstar, was the variety of game styles on hand. Like, not even counting the mini-games, the fact that you got, like, one style was just straight level progression. Another one had a very mild branching path system. It turned into a full-on non-linear experience with Milky Way Wishes. And then the Great Cave Offensive was an attempt at a Metroidvania game with, you know, with Kirby. It was fantastic. I don't think we've had anything quite like the Great Cave Offensive since then, besides maybe Amazing Mirror. But I really did not like the Game Boy Advance Kirby engine, or whatever the heck they used. Just felt slow, unresponsive. Oh, and there wasn't as much variety with your copy abilities. And you were so fragile. 6 hits and you're dead. 1 hit and you lose your copy ability. Very easy to get, you know, blown off course. Alright, anyway. Next up in the list is a 3D game that I did not know about at the time that I owned an N64. Well, I still do, but what I mean to say is I missed out on Star Fox in general. I didn't really know about him until I played Super Smash Bros. And Star Fox 64, you know, everyone will tell you the same, but it really is like the best game in the series. It's fast-paced arcade action, shooty stuff, branching paths, high scores to worry about, all kinds of different, like, alternate enemy encounters. Despite the fact that you can basically complete a run of the game in one sitting, the replay value is bonkers with this game. There's so many ways that you can finish it. Although I do kind of wish there was more to Fox on Foot. Okay, that's a really minor wish, but I mean, that's how he was represented in Smash Bros. That's how he's represented in the opening cutscene. I don't know. It would be neat if we had, like, a mini-game where you could just play as Fox on foot, going around shooting targets or something. Just a little something to round out the experience, aside from the main game. But anyway, the main game was so successful that Nintendo has, like, refused to try and improve on it since then. Oh, they've tried to reinvent the wheel by, like, making new adaptations of the story of Star Fox 64, but they have fallen short in some way or another every single time. Which tells me that Star Fox 64 was a title ahead of its time. And I'm sad that I didn't get a chance to play it until the Wii Virtual Console happened. Imagine how many kids like that are out there right now that, like, never got a chance to play games like Star Fox 64, or even, like, Pilot Wings, or, what's another good one? No, not banjo-kazooie. Or even, like, Mario Kart 64, Super Smash Bros. For the N64. All these games are just gone into the ether because there is no Virtual Console any longer. And I weep for its absence. Alright, what do we got next in the list? Oh, it's none other than everyone's devilish creation engine, Super Mario Maker 2. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this game, but ultimately I did have a very good time with the creativity it allowed me. I went absolutely mad making a whole bunch of levels based off of Super Mario RPG. And the scary thing is that I was able to make them fairly accurate, too. And in some cases, even fun. Imagine that. Like the castle in the Mushroom Kingdom, where you go up against the Shy Guys and you fight Mac the Knife at the end. I had to kind of substitute them with Karibo's shoes, but it doesn't matter. It was a lot of fun kind of reimagining some stuff that I was trying to recreate in a new light. And the new world map editor that they added in a recent update... Recent? Well, it happened this year. That's recent enough. Like, that just ties the whole thing together. That makes it a comprehensive quality experience. And probably a step way above what the first one had going for it. On Alex playing that on his Switch Lite, it's a really good game, although... Well, play it for long enough and you're bound to run into some stinker levels. Yeah, it's a shame that there aren't more tools that the community can use to, like, promote their own levels and highlight quality content. Because right now it really just feels like a crapshoot. Even if you're going for the top-ranked stuff, there's like an 80% chance that you're not even gonna get a platforming level. And it'll be like an Auto Mario level that just makes a pretty picture, or a fancy song or something. Well, anyway, it's a tool. It is as powerful or as unimaginative as those that use it. Moving on next. Oh dear. Well, I apologize in advance for the image I had to dig up for this one, but it really does describe everything about Fire Emblem Fates in a nutshell. And, well, to their credit, I suppose it launched their popularity overseas. But goddamn, I really wish they didn't make so much of the game, romance-influenced, you know. The things that I appreciated most about Fire Emblem Fates were the East versus West theme that it had going on, and the revisions to the weapons that you use. Like, I think that the weapons in that game were some of the most interesting that we've had to date. Nothing ever breaks. Everything has some kind of trade-off to make you consider whether to use one thing or another. Nothing's a straight upgrade anymore. Like, even the so-called ultimate weapons will do things like cut your attack power in half after you use it once, and then it'll go back to normal after you use it again. You know, stuff like that. It's pretty mental. But then you have the other half of the equation, which is stuff like the skinship minigame that they took out of the international release, along with various costumes, and, well, the character design just speaks for itself. I feel like I don't want to linger on this one too long. Point being, it's a solid game, but it's very distracting at times. Fire Emblem 8. Yeah, Pokemon did it first. Never forget. Thank God I didn't dig up a picture of Sakura or Elise for that one. Camille is a safe target. Alright, next one, Chrono Trigger, another game that I slept on back when it was new and hip and happening. Like, isn't that what the developers said about the success of the game, like its cult classic status? They were like, hey, if people want us to make a sequel so bad, why didn't they buy the game? It was just a banger of a game that was released at the wrong time for this country. I'm sure it sold like gangbusters in Japan, but over here, golly, I wish it had gotten promoted more. I wish RPGs were more well-accepted back in the day. I didn't even really get the hang of them until I played Super Mario RPG, which went out of its way to simplify things for me. And even before then, I seem to remember, as a kid, one of my classmates had Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which was... Oh, what was it? What did they do with that? Oh, right, like, Ted Woolsey, Square's, like, go-to translation guy, was, like, really eager to get started on a translation job for Final Fantasy V, which itself was revolutionary in its own way. And then they decided, nah, we're gonna make a baby easy game for Westerners because that's more important to them. It might have worked, but it sure is disappointing that a lot of RPGs got swept under the rug during that time period. I mean, Chrono Trigger didn't, but it flew under my radar, and I'm sad about that. I wish Chrono had made it into Smash Brothers, like, a long time ago to help raise exposure, but, yeah. Anyway, if you don't know about Chrono Trigger by now, just understand that it was a dream project comprised with a dream team of absolutely amazing people that knew what they were doing, you know, not the least of which being Akira Toriyama, who lent a fantastic sense of visual style to the entire game and gave it a sense of flair. I mean, that's part of why I picked the Dragon Tank here for the representative image. It goes above and beyond when it comes to being flashy when it wants to, and it really helps keep the pace of the game, like, vibrant. I love it. And again, didn't really get around to, like, playing it until the age of the emulator, but that's neither here nor there. Alright, moving on, it's time for a new song. This one... Well, shoot. This one has a huge soundtrack. I don't know what to pick for it. How about something kind of peaceful like this? I don't know. Oh, that's the wrong trophy. Shoot. Okay. Yeah, spoilers, it's a Smash Brothers game. And I really wish I had the music of the, Super Smash Bros. Melee trophy gallery. Do I really not have it anywhere? Well, screw it. I'll just look it up on the internet. And it's giving me a bunch of, like, video results. Come on, show me Melee. Okay, how about this? Ow. 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 No, it's a gameplay video. Oh, maybe it'll be good enough. Whoa. What is going on with the audio here? There's something really wrong with this recording. Yeah, that's absolutely not what I was looking for. Maybe something from Smash 64 then. I need something. I need something to keep me going here. How about... Oh yeah, that's way better. One thing I'll say about the first Smash Brothers game is that it had a very unique soundtrack. When it got the chance to do original stuff, it was honestly pretty good. Like, that's the one game in the series where I hate the remixes of Nintendo music and love the original stuff. Like, Peach's Castle, I find that music dreadful. Congo Jungle, just a little bit too low-key for my tastes. Gourmet Race is alright. What else was there? Sector Z was alright. Saffron City, kinda bog standard as far as, like, Pokemon remixes go. But anyway, Smash Ultimate. This had to make it on the list somewhere, right? Everyone loves Smash, and Ultimate, well, it's just kind of the best of all worlds, isn't it? It's got everything. It's got everyone. Well, except for Waluigi, but he was never there to begin with. He may never make it in. We'll just have to accept that and move on with our lives. Hey, at least we can do wacky things like this. Like build stages of his face. That's probably one of my favorite things about Smash Ultimate, honestly, is the stage builder. I haven't been able to do much more than, like, straight lines with it. I am not good with the drawing function on the Switch touchpad, but it is really impressive, the stuff that some people have been able to make. And heck, I should pat myself on the back for this one too, because I made like a bunch of, that's a stage? Yes, there's an actual stage that you can fight on. All the Waluigi stuff is in the foreground, and you don't interact with it whatsoever. It's great. Oh, but yeah, I made an entire series of 8 Mega Man X levels, represented as Smash Ultimate stages. And I think they turned out pretty good. I even threw in stage hazards for some of them. I even managed to make ceilings happen for some of them. Fun times. Someday I will get around to buying the second Smash Fighter Pass. Sephiroth was a pretty solid addition. Steve, arguably more so, but I'm just waiting for, like, you know, a real heavy hitter. Like, I don't know, Gino. Maybe. Like Crash Bandicoot. Something like that. Anyway. I would even take a Tales of character at this point. My friend had one called the Spiral, which is just a rotating spiral you can't escape. Oh no. And yet, that was one of the first kinds of stages I tried to make in Smash Brawl. Was like a steel cage match that you were trapped into, and the only way to escape was to glitch out of the geometry and just fly off to the stage borders because you were going so fast. What have we... You know what? One more thing before I touch off of Smash Ultimate. I'm so happy that they brought back boss battles. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Sephiroth as a character, but when I heard that his classic mode was just a straight-up boss rush, I said to myself, okay, I need to do this at some point or another. Like, Sephiroth and his boss rush is a priority for me when I get Fighter Pass 2. Whenever that is. Someday. Not today. Alright, next one. You might not have seen this one coming. Bit of an oddball on this list, but check it out. It's Punch-Out! The 2009 game. We haven't had a Punch-Out game in over a decade. That's strange. It's got a pretty solid foundation to build off of. It's almost more like a puzzle game than a fighting game. It's all about reaction. It's all about reading your opponent's tells and reacting accordingly. And it's a great learning experience, figuring out where all your opponent's vulnerable points are, and even finding new opportunities to, like, counterattack before they can even land a punch. It feels amazing to master. Although I will say that it gets kinda bullshit hard in the second round. And Donkey Kong especially, spoilers, that's the secret boss fight, is Donkey Kong. Just a really obnoxious marathon boss. But anyway, it's got a fantastic art style. The 2D art is sublime, and they translated it to the 3D models really effectively. So it's fun, it's pretty to look at, it's got amazing music. Check it out if you haven't already. If you know, you can. I don't know where you're gonna find a used Wii nowadays. Oh, and don't do the motion controls. A game like Punch-Out requires lightning-quick reflexes. You're never going to get anywhere if you're relying on motion controls with a Wiimote and nunchuck to throw your punches. Nah, save that for Wii Sports. What do we got next? Oh, it's a surprise that this didn't show up sooner. Or later. Or nothing. Yeah, it's Super Mario RPG. Probably the first RPG I ever completed as a kid. It has a lot of nostalgia value for me. But I will recognize that other games have triumphed in its wake and done even bigger and better things. So that's why it's ranking kinda lowish on this list compared to where I would have put it, oh, say, 10 years ago. I used to hail this as like one of my top 5 favorite games ever. But I've broadened my tastes. I've accepted new developers into my life. But nevertheless, this is a very fun game to come back to and play. There's a current Let's Play going on right now on Lucajin's channel, if you're subscribed to her at all. It's pretty fantastic. She's obsessed with Bowser. And just keeps leveling him up to the heavens so that he can carry her party through to the endgame. But yeah, a lot of things that it did to spice up the RPG formula were needed. Absolutely needed to bring in a wider audience. Back before then, whew, you were lucky if you got anything other than random fights on a huge map screen that took forever to navigate, in part because of the random battles. Here, the maps are short and sweet. The platforming is... That scared me. Water bottles sometimes have a tendency to pop. I don't know why. But yeah, there's platforming to keep you interested, there's puzzles, and of course, most importantly, enemies can be seen on the map before you engage with them, so it's your choice whether to fight them or not. There are honestly very few enemies throughout the entire game that are like roadblocking you that you absolutely have to fight. And for that reason, it is a popular pastime for people to do low-level runs of this game. I kind of want to try it sometime. Sounds like a lot of fun. But yeah, I could go on and on about this game, but we're already like an hour in, and we're not even halfway done with this list, so let's keep moving. What's the next one gonna be? Another RPG, perhaps? It is... Super Metroid. Oh, right, I forgot about this one. Yet another Super Nintendo game that I slept on, and I don't know why. Like, I should have tried this way before I tried it on the Wii Virtual Console. Because, like, Samus was just an all-around cool character in Smash Brothers. Why didn't I look into this sooner? And, of course, Metroid was, like, a pioneer for an entire genre. And Super Metroid was, like, the game that perfected it. There's just so much freedom in what you can do and where you can explore and what tools you have at your disposal. Well, sort of. Other games have improved on that since then, but then there's the, like, advanced techniques that you can do to break this game to pieces and really get to exploring at your own free will. I've heard of people doing things like picking up items in reverse order throughout the entire game, using nothing but these crazy moves and advanced glitches and exploits. It's a broken game, and it's all the better for it. I'm sure fans wouldn't have it any other way. Oh, and to top it all off, the narrative is, like, simple but effective. Even though I don't really know much about Metroid 2. So the connection to the previous entry was kind of lost on me, but even so. Samus is at her best when she's a woman of few words. And that is part of why we keep games like Super Metroid near and dear to our hearts. Alright, we're getting close to another music change, but before we get to that, this might not be the image that you expected, but surely a Pokemon game had to land somewhere on this list eventually, and wouldn't you know it, it wound up being Heart Gold for me. Yes, I'm sure you remember the Pokewalker plenty well. It was a minor phenomenon, but among the people that it, like, resonated with, it was the perfect thing at the perfect time. And it built a sense of community for Pokemon players that just did not really exist all that much before. They tried a little bit with the wireless adapter for Fire Red and Leaf Green, but this was something that really, like, took your connection with Pokemon to a new level. Made conventions so much fun. I wish I could have gone to a convention with this thing. I would have relished in the opportunity. I don't even remember what all it does. But simply being able to take your favorite with you, like your favorite Pokemon from the game, and just have a walk with it, bring it back, it's gotten a little bit stronger, it's gotten an item. Oh, and to top it all off, there's the fact that this game, like, did it introduce the idea of having a Pokemon follow you on the map? I'm gonna say it did, and I'm gonna say that that was a fantastic addition that was realized to an even greater potential with Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu. It's a little bit sappy to say, but the Pokemon games that emphasize your connection with your partners... You forgot Yellow, gosh darn. Oh, yes, I did forget Yellow, sorry. But you know what? That ties into the message that I'm spreading right now. The games that foster a deeper connection between you and your Pokemon are the ones that are elevated to a higher status in my eyes. And that's how Pokemon Heart Gold ended up so high on the list. Another reason is because the Safari Zone was a lot of fun to mess around with. Having your own customizable, like, map where you can catch Pokemon that are determined by what you build, that was something that hadn't been seen in the series before. And I don't think it's been seen since. Despite being a remake, this might be one of the most unique games in the entire series. So, 3 cheers for the DS remakes. And speaking of which, I wonder what they'll do for the remakes of the DS games. Ha! I turned that one around pretty cleverly. Alright, before I move on... Oh, and touching on Yellow really briefly. Yes, I have very fond memories of Yellow, in part because of my connection to the anime. Like, to me, back in the day, the anime and the games were one and the same. You know, my imagination was running wild back in those days. I was dreaming up all kinds of explanations for why I was doing what I was doing, why I was going where I was going. You know, I would imagine all these creatures in greater detail. How many of you also played... named your character Ash and made the team from the show? I probably did. For a period of time. Especially once I found out that you could catch a wild Pidgeotto in the Viridian Forest and really hammer home that connection with the anime. I can guarantee you I did not complete the game in that fashion, but at least once or twice I started it that way. Alright, music change. What do we got next? What to play? What about this? Ow, 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 ow. Loud. Right. Different plugins have different volumes. This is the other Ace Attorney game that made it onto my list. Spirit of Justice. I personally think that this is the single greatest culmination of the entire Ace Attorney series to date. It has not yet been surpassed. The 3D graphics, much like Punch-Out that I mentioned before, somehow they made a fantastic transition from the 2D art into a 3D environment. The characters are just as expressive as ever, their animations are fantastic. Like, how rare is it for animation to be so good that you can tell a character's entire personality by the way they move, the way their face, like, twitches? It's a really rare thing, and you have to focus on that multiple times throughout this game. I don't remember exactly where and when, but, you know, discerning these witnesses, you know, their emotions, the way they move, the way they act, in the process of trying to find out what they're hiding, who they really are. Well, what can I say? It's a lot of fun. It's very thought-provoking gameplay, even though it is still, at its core, just a visual novel. But, I mean, if you're gonna play a visual novel, this, along with, like, the Danganronpa series, really set the bar high. I don't think I could stomach, a lesser visual novel at this point, because these games have spoiled me so much. And then they brought in the Divination Seance, which was so creative for this game, where you get to see the last thing that a dead person saw before they were killed. You'll hear what they heard. Well, you'll see representations in text for viewers' convenience, but yeah, you'll see what they saw, you'll hear what they heard, you'll smell what they smelled. And you'll have to use those as clues to find contradictions with whatever the prosecution is pulling out of their asses. And the music's fantastic. Oh, and similarly to Fire Emblem Fates further down below, there's also a huge theme going on with West versus East. And in this case, it's like a huge cultural divide between where Phoenix ended up, you know, a far-off Asian country, where the traditions and customs of law are just completely backwards to him, versus, you know, good old United States of Japan, where Athena and Apollo get to do their things in a more familiar courtroom, but with a more aggressive prosecutor than ever before. Need to play a more ace. Eat your hamburgers, Apollo. Yes. Well, you can't go wrong with this one. And hey, it's even got at least one DLC case that turned out to be pretty engaging. Yeah, if you want a solid story with solid music and really memorable characters, you cannot go wrong with Ace Attorney, in my opinion. Alright, next one is going to veer in a completely different direction. It's Portal 2, which also had a pretty strong narrative going for it. Well, it's kind of a weird one, but I dropped clues left and right about this weird post-apocalypse that you live in, and all these former test subjects that are nowhere to be seen. And the changing of sides between, you know, which AI is working with you and which is working against you is quite entertaining, I must say. And the environmental details are probably the best thing about it. You know, first Portal... Well, who am I kidding? First Portal also did that really, really well. The moment that you transitioned from, you know, the pristine, clean, organized, prefabricated test environments to the grimy, dingy, behind-the-scenes machinations whether it was part of the, after finishing the final test, or if you just stumbled upon it by accident while trying to solve a puzzle and you got lost and ended up where you weren't supposed to. Well, this takes it a step further with an entire underground facility beneath the facility you were already in from decades past, where you get to learn about the history of this company and how a complete madman of a CEO drove it all into the ground. Oh, by the way, it's got fun puzzles. Did I mention this was a puzzle game? It might as well have been a point-and-click adventure for how fun it was to just explore. Portal 1 was a horror game, I stand by this. You know what? If, what's her name? Ellen? I forget the voice actress for GLaDOS. If she had not been so damn entertaining as a villain, I probably would have been more unnerved by Portal 1, yes. But maybe it's because of, like, the memes that were running rampant at the time, or maybe it was something else entirely that I'm forgetting. But I couldn't take the first Portal seriously enough to, like, treat it as a horror experience. I guess maybe I spoiled myself, ahead of time. If I had been able to experience Portal 1 blind, without any prior, exposure, it probably would have been a really unnerving horror experience for me. Good food for thought. Let's see, what is next? Oh, and going in yet another completely different direction. It's those specific areas that do it, and the sounds associated with them. Ooh, yes. Both portals had really fantastic sound design. And, well, Portal 2 just had straight-up banging music, depending on where you were. Oh god, speaking of horror, Pikmin 3 Deluxe is not a horror experience, but one of the animations that was made around the time of its release, well, I think the image speaks for itself. Anyway, that does not define Pikmin 3 whatsoever. Pikmin is just a really, really fun franchise. Its core mechanics are so fun in and of themselves that even when I was getting a lesser deal with Pikmin 3, after the stellar performance that was Pikmin 2, I still had a lot of fun with it. Like, seriously, I don't know how to explain it better than that. Even when it's under-delivering, it's still a blast to play. And all the extra goodies that you get with Pikmin 3 Deluxe really help seal the deal. It's been a while since I've felt compelled to engage myself with, like, a point-scoring challenge mode in any game, but something about Pikmin 3 Deluxe made it happen, made it click with me. They're very good at recycling their maps and spinning new content out of old. And to that point, if you've seen Arlo talk about Pikmin at length, you've probably heard him suggest the idea of a Pikmin level editor, which would probably be one of the most phenomenal things that Nintendo could possibly do. If they ever make a Pikmin 4, I better see that somewhere in the features list. Oh, and before I forget, pink Pikmin are like the cutest thing ever, and rock Pikmin have their own quirky little cuteness to them. So, they got that going for them. What do we got next? Ah, another classic that I'm sure lots of people are fond of, but, of all images I could have chosen, why did I pick this one? Super Mario Galaxy was quirky in a lot of ways. From the mechanics to the, I was about to say narrative, but nah, narrative was pretty much bog standard, but the side story that you were given was very rare for a Mario game. And if the rumors are true, then the development team, like, went behind Shigeru Miyamoto's back in order to deliver that to us. Like, had Miyamoto had his way, had he known about it sooner, we would have never gotten this, like, really deep, touching backstory behind Rosalina and the Lumas. And that is part of what helps cement Galaxy as such a unique experience, even compared to the sequel. What else was stand out about it? Let me think. It had a pretty interesting way of incorporating old power-ups into a new 3D Mario system. Mario Galaxy, more like why am I crying at a Mario game? But the fun is still there. You know, as long as you don't set foot in the library. There's still definitely fun to be had. Yeah, mechanically, Super Mario Galaxy hits it out of the park. Where, you know, Mario 64 and Sunshine kinda struggled in a lot of areas. In particular, it made underwater levels fun. Which is pretty damn rare for a Mario game. Happy you've been able to play it finally? I actually placed a little higher for you than Odyssey. Wow. That's pretty high praise. But yeah, Mario Galaxy has probably been talked about to death and back. If you've heard of it, you probably know all the things that it did well. Hey, did you know that there was originally going to be, like, a time limit? I don't remember where I read this, but I could swear at some point in development there was going to be, like, limited oxygen for Mario in space. Or, like, if he took too long, then, like, the entire universe would collapse into a black hole. I'm gonna have to look this up later, but I could swear that there was some really dark stuff happening in the earliest builds of the game. These could just be rumors, but I swear I've read about this in like a magazine or two before. I'm gonna have to look that up later. See what could have been with Mario Galaxy. Hey, Luigi's Mansion got that treatment too. Had a time limit and a really creepy looking game over sequence if you failed to finish the game in the allotted time limit, but that's neither here nor there. Number 26 is going to be a return to form. Why, it's another Fire Emblem game. I'm starting to sense a pattern here. Yes, I do love me some Fire Emblem. I've actually been replaying this game in particular a fair bit recently. And I have mixed feelings about it, honestly. That's why, as much as I love some of these games, I don't rank them as high as they could be, because they don't live up to their full potential. There's a lot that Path of Radiance does wrong. It has probably the worst battle animations out of any game in the series, post, like, Game Boy Advance days. They didn't quite know what they were doing with the 3D animations, so they ended up feeling very stilted and slow a lot of the time. And then there was the fact that they didn't convey any information to you whatsoever in the battle animations, which I heard someone say earlier today, oh, that's why I turn the animations on to begin with, is so I can have a look inside and see what's happening, you know, point by point. I don't think they even show damage numbers. Like, when you hit an enemy, it's just a particle effect, and you see their health drop down, but you don't see the amount of damage you did. So that's really obtuse and weird. Also, this game was originally developed for the N64, and at least with regards to the map characters, like the characters on the maps, it shows. I think I've seen some beta builds that never got finished for the N64 version of this game, and I swear some of the 3D models look exactly the same as they did on the N64. If I ever get around to live streaming this again, I'm gonna dig deep into that and show you guys just how far and also how little this game progressed from its N64 origins. But anyway, that's enough griping. The thing that I love most about Path of Radiance is the narrative, the focus on characters. That was something that its sequel, Radiant Dawn, dropped the ball hard on. Isn't this the one that costs like $1,000 to get a physical copy of now? Well, don't I feel lucky that I still have my genuine physical copy. But yes, it's getting quite rare. It did not sell well back in the day. It's really quite a shame. Like in the days before Three Houses, console Fire Emblem sales were terrible. In spite of the greater budget that they needed in order to make, you know, all these lavish 3D visuals come to life. And they worked really hard for the animated cutscenes. Like, they were the last of an era, if you ask me. Radiant Dawn's cutscenes in particular, with, like, the armies marching to fight each other in full, like, high frame rate 3D. And nowadays, Fire Emblem seems more content to, you know, put a lot of shaders on their animations and pretend that it's 2D by cutting the frame rate in half. I can't stand that. But that's off on a very distant tangent. Yeah, Path of Radiance was very different for a Fire Emblem game. Path of Radiance was the first Fire Emblem game to focus on a commoner as your main character, rather than some nobleman engaged in some conflict that spans the whole world. Nah. Path of Radiance, you're the son of a mercenary commander. Your band has been basically torn to shreds because of an invading army. And by pure chance, you end up uniting with the princess of this war-torn nation, and you see her through many trials and tribulations to see her return to the throne, so that you can have your old life back. You like toon shaders, but you don't have to limit the frame rate for the 2.5D bullshit. Yeah, it's just painful to look at, if you ask me. It sticks out like a sore thumb when they do it in anime as well. Oh, and speaking of characters, they spend a lot of time developing even the most minor of characters in Path of Radiance. They even go out of the way to develop characters that don't become significant until the sequel. There's just so much ground that they cover with simple, you know, dialogue exchanges. The addition of base conversations where, you know, you get a chance to listen in on conversations between any given pair of units depending on where you are in the story. There's just so much to listen in on. There's such a deep and rich world that gets built in Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. And I could go on, but I'll probably revisit the subject someday when I play it again on livestream. It's coming someday. Alright, a new set of 5, a new tune to play. Well, unfortunately, I don't have music for this specific game, so I'm gonna have to reach on this. Let me see here. This'll do. Well, this might have been a predictable entry in the list, but Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. I honestly am not sure if this qualifies for this list, because I have not yet completed, you know, half of it. In fact, I haven't even challenged a single Divine Beast. But someday I will. Someday I'll return to this. But the sheer freedom that this game gave me in picking and choosing what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it was something that I hadn't really experienced before. I got this game, and what did I decide to do? I decided to just go around exploring. I decided to hunt. I decided to craft stuff. I decided to tame horses. Like, once I found my ideal horse, that was it. As far as I was concerned, the game was done. I had completed my primary objective. But yeah, there's also something to be said about the tranquility of nature that this game allows you to experience. Occasionally broken to pieces by monsters and guardians, but nevertheless, it's just a one-of-a-kind experience, if you ask me. It's not like any other Zelda game, and arguably not like any other game, period, although I've heard that there are some competitors out there that are trying to change that. Yeah, there's like at least one direct competitor on a Sony console, and then I think that game Genshin Impact is also trying to... Yeah, you said it. Genshin Impact is trying to squeeze in on some of that action. I don't know how successful it is. I don't really know much about the game, except for some of the characters, but, yeah, this was an inspirational game. You let your roommate play, and she did nothing but cut patterns into the grass for 30 minutes. Exactly. This is, the kind of game where you can just cut free and do anything the hell you want. The objective doesn't matter, the points don't matter. You are your own person. In fact, you know what? You don't even really have to acknowledge Zelda at all. Like, yeah, she's there, but unless you directly go out and, like, track down the individual memories that are, you know, hidden throughout the world, you could go throughout the entire world just basically being like, well, I guess there's something evil in that castle and I gotta stop it. What's a Zelda? You want to play it, but it's not on Switch yet. And the one character you cared about was a limited banner, so... Oh, jeez. Is it like a gacha game? I am really not keen on limited release stuff like that. Yeah, it is. I don't have the spirit necessary to drop into another one of those games. I abandoned Fire Emblem Heroes a long time ago. But I still had plenty of room left in my heart for 3 houses. The gacha characters are basically NPCs that you still get story from in the main game. Zhongli. Why would you care about a character named Zhongli? What does this character look like? Oh, it's just, Joker from Persona 5. Alright, cool. Earth-aligned Dragon Man. Alright, cool. So he's the Joker Dragon. I bet I'm gonna piss someone off by saying things like that. 3 houses. The one bad thing I can say about 3 houses, it's that it's kind of exhausting to play. You really have to dig deep into it in order to see it through to the end. And the fact that there's so many campaigns... What is it, like... At least 4... I don't remember if the DLC campaign counts as one or not. But anyway, yeah, lots of remixed maps for you to go through a second time. Lots of characters for you to get to know. And of course there's tea parties. I don't know why, but I basically just fell in love with Claude from the second I laid eyes on him. And sure enough, he turned out to be like the best character in the entire game. Not just in terms of like power as a unit, like my god, he can fly, move ridiculous distances, and basically kill anything from a distance with a bow. But that's neither here nor there. There's also the fact that he's a handsome devil, and also probably like the only sincerely good character that brings a good perspective into the like 3-way conflict that has gotten the country all up in a tizzy. It's actually kind of an interesting direction to take the story. Like, you've got 2 sides that are embroiled in a really bitter war against each other. They've been at it for a long time, they've got a deep blood feud with each other. And then here comes this wacky outsider that does things his own way, and basically strong-arms the other 2 into going along with his ideas. And because he's so foreign and weird, well, it ends up being the best solution for everyone because it's so different from what they're accustomed to. You got the same vibe from 3 Houses as you did from Valor, Mystic, and Instinct from Pokemon Go. Yes. Well, they certainly got the color motifs going down, but did the team leaders of Valor, Mystic, and Instinct have character development? Last I checked, they were basically just, you know, characters that interacted with you in menus. There's some fan interpretations of them. Well, there's fan interpretations of just about everyone that can go in wildly different directions depending on who you ask. Is King Bowser Koopa a big brute that doesn't know when to quit? Or is he actually a sophisticated gentleman that does things in a way that us old-fashioned weirdos just can't acknowledge? Oh, there was another thread to the parallel with the Pokemon teams. Valor equals Sirius. Let's see, who does that correspond with? Dimitri. Yes. Mystic equals Sirius. Wait a minute, wait. Valor, Mystic, Instinct. Was Instinct the yellow team? I'm gonna assume it is. So, what would that make? No, wait a minute. Valor, that's red. That's Edelgard. So... Oh, wait a minute. You wrote Sirius twice. Oh. I'm tripping over myself for nothing. But yes, you've got that right. Yes. Claude is like the only lighthearted spirit around. Even his own teammates could stand to learn a thing or two from him about taking it easy every now and again. Oh, and before I touch off, the monastery aspect of Three Houses was a lot of fun the first time through. On subsequent playthroughs, it becomes a chore that I really don't want to put up with. I'm glad that they did it, but ugh, it really makes replays, like subsequent campaigns, way more of a drag than they need to be. Alright, let's move on to the next one here. Next one, again, is going to veer off into a completely different direction. Look at that, Spelunky. Definitely one of the strongest... roguelikes? Yeah, I guess you could call it a roguelike. One of the strongest ones that I've ever played. Combination of exploration and mild platforming, and the extreme ease at which you die makes it a pretty unique entry in its genre. Well, not the death thing. Like, dying quickly is like the one thing that binds all roguelikes together seamlessly. But yeah, I remember playing this back in the early days when, you know, Olmec looked like this, back when it was pixel art. Back in the first release, where the worst thing you had to worry about was a spooky ghost coming after you. Nowadays, there's so much more. Spelunky 2, I am hesitant to get back into. Like, as far as I'm concerned, Spelunky covers all my needs for, you know, some quick, randomized action to get into. Spelunky 2 is kind of more the same, and I'm just not ready to drop money on that just yet. Someday, maybe. Especially if there's a good amount of, like, fan-made content for it. That'd be nice. That doesn't really explain why it ranked so high on the list, though, does it? I can't really explain it. It's just kind of a one-of-a-kind game that is just perfect for when you're in the mood for it. There's a reason why streamers like Vinny and Joel have dumped, like, you know, tens or even maybe 100 of hours into this game. The replay factor is insane, unlike anything else I've played. And speaking of replay factor and indie games, look at that, it's Minecraft clocking in at number 22. I knew it was going to make this list somewhere. What can I say? I have dumped a ton of hours into Minecraft, and while time spent playing doesn't always equal a good time, with Minecraft it definitely did. You saw it coming. I chose a snowy background because that was like one of my earliest memories with this game. It's that game where that Smash character comes from. How many people are going to recognize Steve first as a Smash character and second as a Minecraft character? Like, that's gotta be a group of, like, 0 people, right? Because Minecraft didn't Sakurai himself say that Minecraft was the single most played game in the world to date? Something like that. It's gotten a lot of accolades, and for good reason. It's like the ultimate tool in creativity. No, wait. Well, maybe there's better stuff out there for 2D and 2.5D stuff, but as far as just, like, 3D block experimentation fun times goes, this is it. This is where the buck stops. There's an entire education version of it just for schools because it got used for that purpose so widely. I heard about that. I've never seen it before, but I've checked the wiki. I'm pretty sure they have, like, unique materials specifically for teaching things like chemistry and things like that. It's pretty darn cool. Smash was many people's first meeting with the Ice Climbers. Well, that is no surprise. Ice Climbers had an install base of, like, a couple hundred. Maybe 1,000. I can guarantee you that the people who played Ice Climber didn't remember it fondly. I played it. Shortly after Melee came out, I got the e-reader cards for Ice Climber. Yeah, you remember that stupid thing? And, yeah, I hated it. I was more fascinated with the novelty of the e-reader cards than I was with Ice Climber. So that was why I kept fooling around with it, but, yeah, Ice Climber is just not fun. It's broken, to be perfectly honest with you. It is broken. The platforms just don't work sometimes. They are so wonky, I can't stand them. I will not shed a tear if Ice Climbers is doomed to never receive a sequel. Balloon Fight, maybe, but Ice Climber, nah, no way. Also fitting that you mentioned ice, given that this is a snowy picture. Why did I bring up the snowy picture again? Oh, right. Because that's like one of my earliest memories with Minecraft was, you know, first discovering the snowy biome and building a cozy cabin next to a frozen river and trying to figure out how to keep water from freezing while I was trying to grow stuff. And building a tunnel down into the deepest reaches of the earth, blah blah blah, all your standard stuff, but it was so new to me to be able to experience these things and, you know, build my own shit. Those were fun times. Oh, and to top it all off, I was using, like, a Zelda Link to the Past texture pack to make it all that much more personal. You know what? That's a good word to describe Minecraft. It's a very personal game with how many options there are to change your experience with it. Yeah, that's a real good word for it, because the way that my kid cousins play it is completely different from me. If they're not rigging up crazy, complicated, like, scripting things that do weird stuff that you would never be able to do normally in-game, if they're not doing that, then they're playing in multiplayer in these, like, PvP-specific maps, wielding all kinds of wacky weapons and going around these crazy maps doing who knows what. Very competitive. I couldn't get into that sort of thing, but I'm glad that they have their own fun with it. Oh yeah, that's not even touching on the multiplayer aspect of it. Like, my god, collaborating with other people is an experience unlike any other with Minecraft. I've done it with a select few people on occasions before, and, well, gee, that's how you forge bonds nowadays. That's how you forge bonds that, like, never break, is collaborating to gather, like, clay balls for someone so they can finish a scale model of a cathedral, and you both know that you worked equally hard to make it a reality. Like, that brings people together. No doubt there's something similar happening with Animal Crossing right now. Alright. Next up on 21, it's Kirby Air Ride. I don't know how this made it so high up in the list. I ranked it as my #1 favorite racing game of all time, but the more I reflected on it, the more I realized what a well-polished game it was. Like, there's just so much to do for such a seemingly simple premise. So much to unlock, so much to discover, and of course the environments are just so rich and beautiful and detailed. I've talked about before, but this is like one of the top 3 games that I would want to do a boundary break of. You know, like She Says does. In fact, I think I recently discovered the option in Dolphin that will allow you to take your camera wherever you want, so hey, maybe I could dedicate an entire day to that sort of thing. Wouldn't that be fun? But, yeah, anyway, Kirby Air Ride, a deceptively simple experience that really opens up when you start playing with other people in the City Trial game mode. And if you don't know what that is, it's a big open playground of a map where players just go around finding random stuff, building up the machines for random events that happen both during the map itself and for the final event afterward. It could be a race, it could be a high jump event, it could be a mission to slay enemies. You can never tell, and that element of randomness really helps the replay factor. In fact, I'm sensing a pattern here. Replayability and randomness and unpredictability go hand in hand. And I think more games should have capabilities of shuffling their contents around. Oh, time for another song change. I'm gonna go ahead and take a drink of water in preparation for it. Alright, you guys ready for this one? Yep, finally got around to it. Team Fortress 2. It's been a long time since I played this, but I have a lot of history with this game. You almost wouldn't be able to tell with how little I play like first-person shooters and things like that. But this game is freaking special to me, man. There is so much going on with it, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, the shooting mechanics and the team-based gameplay are of a class all their own. I have played other team-based shooty games since then, and none of them have lived up to this. Now, they may be more appealing to competitive types that like to keep things tight, organized, and focused, but the appeal to me, of Team Fortress 2 was exactly how unfocused and chaotic it was. You never knew what you were going to be getting into when you started up a match. You know, as evidenced here, you could be going into a perfectly organized team with one player of every class, or you could be fighting a bunch of tryhards that are like... you got 3 people playing as spies and 3 people playing as snipers, all of them trying to pin down this one guy that's been giving them a lot of trouble. And it's just completely unbalanced and out of whack. One team ends up winning, teams get scrambled, and you start all over again with a clean slate and you don't know what's going to happen next. And sometimes, things even devolve to the point of a permanent truce. And those moments are quite magical, as depicted in this little picture here. The heavy picnic, the progenitor of such shenanigans. You interact with the sandwich weapon, which replaces your shotgun, and you just take a bite. If you're already at full health, well, you can just keep on going forever. It was so humorous to look at that people started gathering en masse to do this with each other, regardless of which team they were on. It was a unifying experience. It was kind of like, I don't know, World of Warcraft, like doing a dance with each other and saying kek to each other. I don't know. Never played Warcraft all that much to get that experience, but that was my experience with Team Fortress 2. Once I started getting into the fooling around territory, there was no looking back. I would play as an engineer and place buildings in the strangest of places. I would play as a scout and go invincible and just like sneak up behind people and taunt kill them. I would play as a heavy and throw my sandwiches at enemies just for the laughs. I would play as a spy and break out the cardboard box and hide under a ledge so that a sentry would notice me and start shooting at me, but my hitbox would be too low to the ground and it would completely miss every shot, thereby making it waste ammunition, and the engineer would be completely confused and he'd be like, what the heck's going on? And the shenanigans don't end there. I could take that same cardboard box and plant myself on the enemy control point, thereby capturing it, but the enemy doesn't know where I am, so they step on it and they cancel the capture, and then they don't know why the capture isn't reverting, and I'm still there laughing the entire time. And then they patch that out. Yeah, maybe that's why I don't play Team Fortress 2 that much nowadays. Rather unfortunately, Valve has patched a lot of the goofy fun out of the game over the years. All those exploits to put you in the so-called civilian class where you're basically just T-posing and gliding everywhere. Or, what's another good one? That really old one where the scout would, like, make his legs go all over the place if he crouched while double jumping. So much fun to be had. That was the most active engagement I've ever had with a video game in my entire life. The second an update dropped, I would have to be one of the first people to rush in and start playing with it, so that I could find the bugs and exploit them to hell and back. In fact, you there in the chat, I think I've done this with you at least once. Doing these, like, taunts with the crazy special effects. The medic had one, the pyro had one. If you were at a very specific elevation in the water, you could keep on doing that, and the animation would automatically cancel itself out, but the particles and sounds would keep on going, and you could just pile it up higher and higher and higher, until some people with bad computers would probably end up with their, like, motherboards exploding because of how much you were overloading their screen with shit. Oh, it was so fantastic. Oh wait, that actually happened! I did that to you! Oh. Sorry about that. It was all in good fun. So yeah, the simple fact that I have this many stories off the top of my head to share about this game really helps convey how special it was. Someday, I'd like to do a little, reunion with this game. Pop in, have some fun for old time's sake. What fun. Is there anything else I could touch off with? Oh yeah, kind of a minor footnote, but the co-op game, Man vs. Machine, it was pretty solid. I didn't see it coming, but it turned out to be a pretty darn good addition to the game. Assuming that you could actually get in with your party, which was not reliable, but aside from that, it was a lot of fun. If you had your own custom servers, you could do whatever the hell you wanted. You could tweak the numbers and do all kinds of stuff. If you've never seen any of these shenanigans, just load up an old German Star Team Fortress 2 video, and they'll show you everything you need to know. TF2 and Splatoon for best team-based competitive games. Maybe I should consider Splatoon a little bit more seriously. I don't know. You think they'll ever make a Splatoon 3? Or do you think they're just going to keep adding to Splatoon 2 until the end of the Switch's lifespan? I don't know. The more wacky fun you can have with a game like that, the better, if you ask me. Alright, we're getting into the second half. It's another Kirby game. It's Kirby Planet Robobot. It's the thing that I based my avatar on. Now, the deal with Planet Robobot is that while it may not do anything, especially extraordinary on its own, and it is a remarkably short game for a Kirby game, but in my opinion, it offers the single most solid, comprehensive Kirby experience that you could ask for. And there's definitely lots of challenge if you're willing to look for it. Yeah, the boss rush in that game is no joke. There was kind of a disappointing trend with more modern Kirby games, where the gimmicks that they would employ tended to be more style over substance. You would have things like the super abilities in... what was that one? Return to Dreamland, which were cool and all the first time, but after that they just took up way too much time for what they were accomplishing. And furthermore, there was not a lot that you could do with them. It was a very limited pool of abilities, and there was exactly one move you could pull with them, and it was always a screen nuke. What was the one that came after that? Triple Deluxe. That had the super suction. Again, just a bit bland. It just takes too long, and it only ever does one thing. And then even after that, we had the Friend Star and various other friend abilities. Again, cool and all the first time, but after that they just start to lag and drag on. Not that fun anymore after you've replayed the game a number of times. But the robot armor continues to be fun, because even while you're piloting it, you still have limited access to copy abilities to change what moves you're using. And is that all we really need? That might be all we need. Is a little bit of variety in how we can attack, and a bit of variety in how we go about our business. Sure, keep a couple of things mandatory for puzzle solving, but for just fighting? Let me do what I want! One more thing to mention about this game is that it has the most coherent theme out of any Kirby game I've ever experienced in my life. They take the mechanicized theme and plant it all the way from the start to the finish. You start out, and all your regular greenery is replaced with weird machines pretending to be plants and trees. The very first boss is a mechanized version of Wispy Woods that's an oil tanker or something. It's got oil spheres on its head. It's got a metal plating going around it. It looks like a tree, but no part of it is remotely organic. It's quite remarkable. And then, of course, the further you go, the more heavily industrialized things get. Until you get to the point where you're dealing with supercomputers and, cyberspace. And that whole final series of levels was just... it was a spectacle. And it was a hell of a lot of fun to go through. Almost makes me want to replay the game right now. My only complaint is that there wasn't quite enough to do with the robot armor. Just expand it a little bit, and we'll be cooking with gas. Another thing I kind of miss is the, Metroidvania-ish maps that the Great Cave Offensive had, but hey, you can't have everything. Again, Robot is your most comprehensive Kirby experience. I just saw what you said about Splatoon 2. They're done with major updates, but they're doing Mushroom vs. Superstar Splatfest next month. Huh. That almost seems like a no-brainer. That people would almost universally prefer the Star, and yet, somehow, every single Splatfest manages to be extremely divisive. I feel like I've never seen anything with more than, I don't know, a 25% extra majority over the 50%. I'm probably phrasing that badly, but you know what I mean. Alright, next up on the list, in number 18, it's another 2D platformer. I can't get enough of these. It's Mega Man X. Possibly the most brilliant Mega Man game ever devised. You're predicting a 70-30 split in favor of the Star? Ah. Well, let me know if that happens. So, Mega Man X. If you've never seen Ego Raptor's video on, why Mega Man X is so good it makes my dick rock hard, then maybe go check that out, because it does a lot to explain what Mega Man X does right, compared to its predecessors. It takes a lot of consideration into designing levels so that you learn as you go. There's a lot of stuff to consider while you're fighting. A lot more than just ordinary jump and shoot man action. You've got sliding, you've got wall jumping, you've got advanced weaponry, you've got armor upgrades to find. Again, just an incredibly solid experience. That's a running theme with games on my top 20 section. Is like best in show, best in class, best in genre. This is easily one of the best 2D platformers I've ever played. Run and gun, whatever you want to call it. I'd happily replay it any day of the week. And I feel sad that my first experience of the game was basically with the cartridge glued to the Game Genie. Because it was just too hard for little old me. I couldn't figure out how to get out of the bee pit. I had to use moon jump. If only I had been willing to listen to what the game was trying to tell me. What do we got next? Another 2D platformer. Why, you shouldn't have. This almost feels more like an advent calendar. Maybe I'll do one of those next year. But hey, check it out, it's Sonic Mania. I had difficulty figuring out where to place this. You might have noticed I kind of just lumped these 2D platformers all together. But, Sonic Mania, Again, best in show, best in class, best in genre. It is the best Sonic game I have ever played. I'm sure some people will say that Sonic 3 and Knuckles is still better, and I'll hear them out on that point. In some ways, it kind of is. If for no other reason than sheer length. Like, the amount of content that Sonic 3 and Knuckles packed into one experience, well, technically two, but who's counting, was kind of unheard of for that era in gaming. Really quite awe-inspiring. Sonic Mania, almost as much content, and definitely lots of extra stuff, extra secrets to look out for to keep you interested. And of course, the most important factor is the level design and the mechanics of Sonic himself, which have pretty much been perfected, if you ask me. Definitely getting a case of dry throat here. I was trying to remember if there were any better examples of level design out there, but there's no better example of, like, consistently good level design. Sonic Generations had a couple of, like, knockout winners in terms of level design, but they dropped the ball really hard later on in the game, so ultimately I'm gonna have to cede the victory to Sonic Mania on that. Sonic Generations didn't even make the list. Where did it end up? Let me see here. 2D platformer. Sonic. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. It made number 18 on my list of favoritist most platformers. That sentence came out weird. It is sandwiched between two Kirby games. What a coincidence, just like on this list. In between Return to Dreamland and Kirby Star Allies. It also ranked higher than Mega Man 10, but lower than Mega Man 8. Oh. Well, that's amusing that Mega Man 8 had a chance of landing on this list. But no dice. Someday I should look into Sonic Mania Plus. Those extra characters look like a lot of fun to play as. That flying squirrel in particular appears to be a speedrunner's, like, dream come true. I wonder if this water bottle's gonna be enough for me. I've been doing, like, nothing but talking tonight. Alright, number 16 is going back to another tactical game. This one is an Advance Wars game. And I kind of surprised myself. I never thought that an Advance Wars game would place higher than a Fire Emblem game on these lists. But the more I think about Days of Ruin, in particular, the more it resonates with me. I don't know. Something about it, it's like one of the best post-apocalypse stories I've ever, like, experienced in a game. And that's kind of a weird thing to say, but I don't know, the characters resonate really strongly with me. Heroes and villains alike. Well, okay, the final boss was kind of a weird cop-out. Oh, you thought that I was the madman behind it all, but actually I was a clone! One of several. I killed my creator, and now I will kill you! Yeah, that was a little bit too hammy for me to get behind, but, you know, the desperate story of Will, Isabella, and all the other survivors in this post-apocalyptic wasteland as they're dragged back into warfare, and they have to, like, learn to cope with their limited resources. That's something kind of interesting about this game, is the relative lack of deployment maps. At any given time, your resources are going to be extremely limited. They kind of reinforce that by having many maps set you back in terms of your firepower. You'll have, like, a mega tank in one map, and you'll never see it for the rest of the game. Because, well, it's just not logistically possible in this barren wasteland to keep it supplied long enough to carry it that far. So a couple of missions later, you're reduced to nothing more than a light tank, a recon truck, and a couple of infantry, and you have to figure out how to win using missile silos on the map. I'm talking like 5 missions before the end of the game. That's how late they set back your power levels. It's really quite something. They kind of try to do something similar with Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, which... Is that the next one on the list? Yep, that's the next one on the list. Well, I guess it's time to transition back to some Fire Emblem music. But yeah, Radiant Dawn. What is there to say about Radiant Dawn? Definitely one of my favorites in the series, even though there are a lot of problems I have with it. Let me see here. What are its biggest strengths? I'll tell you one thing. The sense of scope that this game covers is unlike any other game in the series. Even greater than that of, like, Genealogy of the Holy War, which was specifically designed to span continents and generations. But here we have Radiant Dawn, which is just a massing of all fighting forces on the entire continent, building up to a great conflict that ends with waking a goddess to, like, wreak her judgment on the world. That scene that you see there with General Zelgius and the massive army behind him, like, that gave me chills when I got to that point playing this game for the first time. It's the exact same sort of sensation as, like, watching a Lord of the Rings film for the very first time. Back in the days when, like, fantasy films were really, really hard to come by. Especially ones with a good budget backing them up. When you see entire armies marching against each other and, like, clashing in a realistic fashion, each soldier doing something different to the other, it's really a sight to behold. And in a sense, you kind of experienced that on a gameplay level too, even outside of the narrative and the cutscenes. Because your groups are split so far and so thin for so much of the game, until at long last they all unite in the final chapter. Truth be told, it's also a flaw, in addition to being a great strength of this game. So, let me explain what I mean. Starting out, you are the wimps of the world. You're in Dayan, you're this ragtag bunch that can't even keep themselves on their own 2 feet. You're being pushed around by the, Benyon Empire, way stronger than you, after your country's already been decimated by war. And that's reflected in the gameplay. Most of your missions will be more about surviving or escaping rather than a direct confrontation. And it kinda sucks a little bit. You'll have an extremely hard time getting anyone fighting fit for the endgame during this stretch of time. But at the same time, it's also a glorious unification of gameplay and narrative. And you... if only you didn't have to work quite as hard to subvert it. This game could probably do with a lot of rebalancing in order to hit a stronger, positive note with me. But until then, another thing I gotta sing its praises for is its animation. The map animations, the battle animations, the cutscene animations, all of them are spot on, and they only got better and better from this point forward. Yep, starting with Awakening, going into Fates and Three Houses, the animations that all these units are capable of doing just blow me away. I love watching them. In spite of how long they tend to take. Let me see, is there anything else I can touch on before I move past this? Can I just say, the entire species of the Lagoos were fascinating. I loved having them around in the story. This entire population of beastmen that could shapeshift into birds, dragons, cats, tigers, things like that. That was their entire gameplay gimmick, was that they needed no weapons because they were weapons unto themselves, but they had to time themselves properly. And unfortunately, Radiant Dawn dropped the ball with that. It is way harder to fight with shifting Lagoos in this game compared to Path of Radiance. But the idea is still there. If only they hadn't handled it so clumsily, this could have been such a fantastic game. But I love it, in spite of its flaws. Moving onward and upward, did you expect to see another Smash Bros. Game in this list? Because there it is, Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Among some people, their most hated Smash Bros. Game. But for me, my most cherished. When this game came out, that was like the peak of video game hype culture for me. Like, I was obsessive about this game back when it was coming out. I checked the freaking Smash Bros. Dojo daily, every morning, before school, like clockwork, to see if there was anything new or interesting to share. It felt like uncharted territory with how many new characters they were adding in. I was so excited to see King Dedede when he was revealed. And even in the opening trailer, I was like, no way, they finally got Wario in. And he was like a major focus of the trailer too. And then when they were showcasing the final smashes, that was like a whole another thing to get excited about. These ultimate moves that characters could suddenly do. These were all new and exciting. And yes, you in the chat, you hit the nail on the head. That's without even touching on the humongous adventure mode that came with the game, the Subspace Emissary, which I really want to return to someday soon. Maybe this year, maybe next year, but someday soon, I will live stream it, and it will be glorious. It's just such a phenomenal idea, grouping all these characters together for one grand adventure, hunting for secrets, going through these big open areas with fights all along the way, collecting upgrades for your characters. Oh. And then they wrote their own story to try and bind all these characters together. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a better picture than this, but, you know, Dedede, Luigi, they're teaming up in the only way that they possibly could. With Dedede as a big, pushy blowhard that basically press gangs Luigi into service. And Luigi's just kind of meek about it until finally he finds his motivation and he goes wholehearted into the adventure. Subspace Emissary will never be topped, will it? Ugh. I get this horrible feeling that on some level, Masahiro Sakurai regrets making the Subspace Emissary. Like, he feels like it was a waste of resources, and that's not what people came to Smash Bros. For. And to some extent, he's right, but there's just so much untapped potential with the crossovers that could happen with stories like this. Like, I have a very specific wish for the next Smash Bros. Game, and that is to not try to one-up Smash Bros. Ultimate. No, I want them to take a step back, restrict the roster, and offer a different kind of experience that's more focused on a single-player experience. Kind of in the vein of, oh, I don't know, the Kirby Fighters or something, but with a greater emphasis on the adventure. Like, imagine if the Kirby Fighters had, you know, a full-on Kirby game to go through with, in multiplayer no less. We could have something like that, with a potential, like, Super Smash Bros. Spin-off. I imagine that, and it just gives me goosebumps thinking of the possibilities if they added greater emphasis to the narrative. But that's such a far cry. And even if they did do that, they probably would only be able to do that with the first-party characters they bring in. Like, there's no way in hell we would have ever seen a Subspace Emissary experience with Cloud and Sephiroth included. No freaking way. Pac-Man? Nah. The only reason Sonic made it in is because Sega's kinda just more chill as a company compared to its competition. I'm imagining that's the entire reason behind Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Sega's just more chill about lending out their IP. For better or for worse, but that's a story for another day. Even so, even just with first-party characters, there's a lot of potential to be had. I'm trying to think of some good examples, and they are escaping me because there are just so many good ones. Like, imagine Luigi and Lucas from Mother 3 going on their own little adventure to find their courage, while their, more worldly-wise, brethren, not quite brothers, but, you know, Mario and Ness, they're off doing their own thing, being heroic, and it's up to Luigi and Lucas to catch up and lend them a hand at the end. Why, they could even do character-specific campaigns, wouldn't that be something? They do that for, like, Street Fighter. I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, basically, give them the Marvel vs. Capcom treatment. And things could start to happen in a wild and crazy way. Oh, did I just mention Mother 3? Because look at that, that's the next game in the list. We're in the top 15 now. Here's Mother 3 at number 13. I'm sure a number of people who love this game would rank it higher, but as much as I love this game, it just doesn't quite reach the heights of other RPGs that I love. It's still fantastic, but I think my problem is that it focuses so hard on its narrative. Like with Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, it's both a blessing and a curse. While the story it tells is unforgettable and very charming, and it's a blast to go through on your first go, I really do wish there was more freedom to experience the game in alternate ways on follow-up playthroughs. More things that you could do to customize your party. Heck, I wish Flint could have been playable at the very end. More options in the way that you approach the chapters. That would have been a lot of fun. And what else? It could be argued that the graphics could use an upgrade, but I think that was a very intentional sacrifice that they made in order to make the character animations that much more fluid and expressive. Like, you might not be able to guess just by looking at a still image of Lucas and friends, but they are very good at expressing their emotions just with how they move. I mentioned that quality with Punch-Out in the past. Wait, was it Punch-Out? Shoot, what game was it that I was praising the visuals of? Bleh. Maybe if I scroll back down the list, it'll jog my memory. Which one had a really good transition from 2D to 3D? Which one was it? Oh, right, Phoenix Wright. Ace Attorney. Right. So, kind of like that. They may have limited hardware limitations to work with, but they pull through and deliver some really moving cutscenes in the end. Alright, we've passed the 2-hour mark. It's time to bring this to a close. Here's another best in class. One of the best 3D platformers ever made. It's banjo-kazooie. We all know him, we all love him. I felt like it didn't need much explanation, so I just fished up a picture of Banjo giving a thumbs up here. There's a reason people have been clamming for their return ever since Rare bought out... No, wait. Microsoft bought out Rare. I almost got that backwards. Yeah, they set a really strong standard for their genre back in the day. And, like, Banjo-Kazooie, the first game, just seems to get better and better with age. I don't know what it is about it. Like, Banjo-Tooie didn't age nearly as gracefully. That's got a lot of issues with it that make follow-up playthroughs really janky and uncomfortable to go through again. Donkey Kong 64 has it even worse, but Banjo-Kazooie, it kept things simple and quick and clean, and because of that, it earned a place in all of our hearts as just a jolly good romp through a little fairy tale world, doing all kinds of fun stuff to pick up shiny, collectible things. It's what every kid dreams about. In fact, back in the day, Keebler was doing a promotion with Banjo-Kazooie. You know, the cookie company. And they were pushing these commercials that were promising prizes associated with the pickups in Banjo-Kazooie, like jiggies and feathers and eggs. I was like, wow, they're so shiny, I want to pick them up right now, and I was like drawing pictures of them as a kid. There is something to the 3D collectathon genre that has kind of been fading over the years. I really hope another strong contender for that genre comes along over the years to really give it a good jump start. I mean, kudos to Yooka-Laylee for trying, but they didn't quite hit the mark. Number 11, my number 1 ranked Legend of Zelda game, Majora's Mask. I feel like this is about the peak of Zelda dungeon design, as well as narrative tone. Well, it may not be the peak, but it's certainly memorable. Considering the limited resources they had to work with this game, it really is remarkable that they managed to tell such a memorable story with it, with this doomed world that just kind of accepts its own fate. And you have to kind of just push through this nihilistic bleakness in order to give everyone a ray of hope at the end. Skull Kid, pretty okay antagonist as well. Majora's Mask, really unsettling antagonist that we haven't really seen the likes of since then. Like, Ganon may be Ganon, but nothing will quite match the strangeness that Majora's Mask encompassed. Both in terms of, like, the curses it lays down and the way it behaves while you're fighting it. It's just all around very, very peculiar. And it's this strange quality that gives it such a unique feeling and such a permanent place in my top games rank. Oh, and lest I forget, this was like one of the pioneers of making a believable world for NPCs to inhabit. Now, they accomplished this, of course, with the help of the, Groundhog Day time loop. But boy, oh boy, imagine if Cyberpunk 2077 NPCs behaved like Majora's Mask NPCs. Imagine how different that would feel. Like, they can certainly try, AAA companies can certainly try, but unless they start imposing some limits on themselves, and, like, better comprehending what kind of world they're working with, I don't know what I'm saying here, but point being, they're missing the mark as far as, like, NPCs are concerned. Majora's Mask did it right. Cyberpunk 2077 did it wrong. That's all I have to say about that. I haven't played it, but I've seen a lot of coverage of it, and it looks hilarious, for lack of a better word. Alright, time for one of the final song shifts. Majora's Mask, much greater than Cyberpunk 2077. I'm inclined to believe that a lot of people who, well, were born by the time Majora's Mask came out would agree with that. At least I would hope so. Because Cyberpunk is... what a shit show of a game that is. For all its ambitions... Well, I don't need to say any more, in part because I haven't played the darn thing. I don't have any first-hand experience. Go watch someone else's stream of that if you're curious about it. It's worth a look. Spoilers. Alright, let me see what we got here. I choose... Oh, where is it? I can never remember the name of these songs. Ah, here we go. Alright. So... here's the next one. We're starting on the number 10. The top 10. Finally getting to this point. And what a game to kick it off with than Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. If you know anything about this game, or rather, if you don't know anything about this game, one thing you should know is that Shovel Knight Treasure Trove is an amazing deal for the amount of money it's charging. Seriously, Donkey said it right when he said that this is how you run a Kickstarter. Don't even play around if you're not gonna rise to this level of quality. And yeah, Shovel Knight started humble, just a simple throwback, but then it just kept building and building and building and expanding. It took years to get to this point, but it was worth it. The variety of game styles that we have on display now is phenomenal, and there's just so much content packed into it. I've beaten every campaign, but I still haven't gotten around to finishing everything. I've got card games left to finish. I've got challenge modes left to complete. And that's not even touching on the self-imposed challenges, like with Plague Knight, and how he's basically built for speedrunning. That's a whole other adventure I could tackle in and of itself. Probably one of the greatest strengths of Shovel Knight and its developers is their capability to listen. They were founded through crowdfunding. They took in a lot of critique and listened to what worked and what didn't, and they were not afraid to throw good ideas out the window when it didn't fit what they were going for and bog down the rest of the game. There's a lot of developer commentary out there about King Knight, King of Cards in particular, that shows how wildly his gameplay style evolved over the development cycle. And hell, even the direction they were going to take his levels. Originally, he was just going to revisit all of Spectre Knight's levels. But then they decided, you know what? Let's make this into Super Mario Bros. 3, cause why not? With a card minigame, cause why not? There's just so much on offer here. You can't go wrong with this game. I would like to meet someone someday who, like, is not even remotely interested in this game and try to find out why. If it's just because they don't like the pixel art, well, I would suggest to them, get used to it. Because pixel art is beautiful, and this game has a lot of it. It's like the literal epitome of a colorful cast of characters. And I couldn't be happier that this game met all of its crowdfunding goals. Next one on the list was also crowdfunded. Check it out. It's a Hat in Time. Ranking very high on this list compared to where I thought it was going to be. What can I say? This game just flat out charmed me. Everything about, like, the world design, the character interactions. Hat Kid might not say much, but she sure does, like, form a solid hot iron link in your heart to forge with everything else. That's a very strange series of words I just said, but favorite indie 3D platformer right there? Same here. It's one of my favorite indie games ever. In fact, let me go ahead and check and see if there's any other indie games in this list. Oh, yes there is. Okay, so it doesn't get that honor, but it is still very high up there, and it was a tough call picking between A Hat in Time and Shovel Knight to put in the 9 and 10 slots. Because I'd say they're very comparable in quality. Now, while while Shovel Knight's greatest strength might have been delivering the best experience out of the gate, I would say that A Hat in Time's greatest strength is how much it opened itself up. Like, how much it expanded after release. Like, the DLC and the user-made content just expands this game into a whole new freaking dimension. There's a lot to be said about user-generated content, and that, I think, is the extra little pinch of paprika that pushes it over the top into the number 9 spot. I haven't played very many user-made maps, but the ones that I have seen were of exceptional quality, and the fact that there were curated packs, like every week or every month or something, like, that's just fantastic. They have a very good relationship with their community, if you ask me. Not to say that Shovel Knight doesn't, but, I mean, A Hat in Time really goes places with it. Oh, and there's another game further up on this list that A Hat in Time takes great inspiration from. So, it's got that level of quality writing attached to it that I love so much. We'll come full circle around to that very soon, I'm sure. Alright, lucky number, not so lucky number 8. I have the numbers mixed up in my over here, actually. No, wait, I can't show you, because that'll reveal the game name before I unveil it. Ah! Oh, look at that, it's a Mario Odyssey! I'm sure some people out there would take great umbrage with me placing Odyssey above A Hat in Time. But what can I say? It's just very, very difficult to compete with a first-party Nintendo release that's designed to sell consoles. They had all the resources and professionalism to put into this project, and it paid off. Arguably more so than any prior first-party Mario release, like, ever. I honestly think that Mario Odyssey is in a class of its own compared to its predecessors. Probably the biggest component of that boils down to the controls. Like, it has never felt better to control a character. Wait a minute. Okay, I take that back. A Hat in Time actually beats out Mario Odyssey in this regard, but this is the best it's ever felt to control Mario, specifically, in a 3D platformer. A Hat in Time is a lot more fluid and forgiving for the player, but Odyssey does it really well too. And as much variety as there is with the capture ability that you can use, it opens itself up quite a bit to a lot of player experimentation when you take that away and experiment by yourself with all the crazy moves that Mario is capable of. So, this is definitely on my list of games to be replayed from square one in the future. I want to do a, like, minimalist capture challenge. I want to see how crazy I can make Mario move. And that's going to be a fun project to go through. Oh, and if you've never seen Steve Gaming talk about Mario Odyssey, I'd recommend giving his channel a watch, because he talks about a number of things, especially the boss design in Mario Odyssey, and how nuanced it is to allow for players of a higher skill level to breeze through the fight at a brisk pace, assuming that they know what they're doing. It completely upends the previous pattern of hit boss, wait for counterattack phase to end, and then rinse and repeat. Nah, Mario Odyssey, in many occasions, lets you intercept the counterattacks and just get right on with the fight. You don't even have to see Bowser throw a single punch if you know what you're doing. Love watching crazy tech runs of Odyssey. Yeah, it's fantastic. I'll tell you one thing, though. I didn't like the balloons. That's just like begging for people to exploit it and find areas under the ground for people to hide balloons. That was the worst update to a modern video game that I could have asked for. I really wish we had gotten something like Delfino Plaza as an extra explorable world or something. Yeah, the balloons were bunk. Alright, what do we got next? Oh, going from 3D back to 2D, or 2.5D, it's Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which is, in my opinion, the most refined that Donkey Kong Country has ever been. And maybe even the most refined 2D platforming has ever been. Although there is some room for improvement still. On the one hand, I appreciate how big, bulky, and sluggish Donkey Kong feels sometimes when he's platforming. But at the same time, I respect it, because he's a big hulking gorilla. That's how he should feel. Makes you feel like you have to be more careful and precise about the platforming that you do. And makes it very satisfying when you get to mastering it. And hey, if you're looking for an alternate kind of challenge, there's Hard Mode, which will allow you to play as any of the partner Kongs by themselves, which ought to be a pretty fun challenge. You can play as Dixie exclusively for a potentially easier time. Or switch things up a little bit. I personally plan on playing as Cranky Kong for an entire playthrough at some point or another. Or you could just play New Funky Mode, dudes. And just breeze through it as easily as an ocean breeze. Mark Brown's video on this game was very insightful. Tell me about it. Yeah, probably this game's biggest strength is its world design and its level design and all the unique things that go into making each individual level. The way that they'll introduce one theme and then introduce a second one and then mix and match those in natural ways that end up making very logical and challenging platforming experiences. Again, Mark Brown would explain it a lot better than me. It was a fantastic video. Oh, also, I just like the Snowmads. These big, hulking walruses and menacing penguins and big, bug-eyed owls. They were great villains. I loved them. I didn't think anything would be able to trump the Kremlings. I was clamoring for them to come back after Donkey Kong Country 3. And when they were replaced by wooden instruments in Donkey Kong Country Returns, I was so disappointed. But the Snowmads in this game really live up to their threat level. They come after you personally. They got a giant seal, they got a polar bear, they got a trio of baboons for some reason. I don't know why they're hanging out with the polar bears and the penguins, but yeah, they're after you, and they are very challenging fights. Probably the boss fights are some of my favorite things about this game. Among other things. Secrets are fun to find too. Let me see here. Let's move on to number 6 before I run out of water to drink. Uh-oh. It's another Fire Emblem game. It's the last one, I promise. Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones. This might seem like a weird pick to place so high on this list. It's a Game Boy Advance game, the final Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem, and probably one of the final Game Boy Advance games, period. But let me phrase it this way. While all the other games have something unique that they do especially well, they also have a lot of shortcomings. With the Sacred Stones, I feel like it doesn't really have any shortcomings. It feels like the most polished and refined Fire Emblem that was ever made. And it's very easy to get into. Offers you a lot of options in how you deal with its challenge. There's a lot of opportunity for level grinding, which is not normal for a Fire Emblem game, but it's optional. It's very possible to go through the game without grinding for levels at all. And, if that wasn't enough, there's an entire post-game dungeon that is very long and challenging, that feels pretty cool to get through. The story is also pretty good, following the exploits of these twin siblings, Ephraim and Irika, as they split ways and go about conquering the evil empire on completely different paths, and you can pick whichever sibling you want from adventure to adventure. They have different maps, they have different dialogue with different characters, and it even impacts some events and slightly remixes maps further down the road. Some of it doesn't make sense. Like, oh, if you pick Ephraim, then on Chapter 16 you'll run into a bunch of druids, but with Irica, you'll find a bunch of Great Knights. I don't know. Some of it's a little arbitrary, but point being, it's just having that split in the middle with the two characters and the two alternate campaigns adds a lot to the game's replayability. It could be argued that they could have done more, but if they did too much more, that would be veering into Fire Emblem Three Houses territory, which I've already mentioned is an exhausting game for me. Hang on a second. Okay. So, and how could I forget? This was one of the first games to introduce the idea of split promotions when you're upgrading your units. So that's another huge thing that helps with replayability. As you're building these units up, it's your choice whether they specialize in one class or the second one. You see the character depicted in the screenshot, that's a Falcon Knight. But on an alternate playthrough, you could change her into a Wyvern Knight, and get defense-piercing abilities at the cost of not being able to use swords. So, you know, that sort of thing. It doesn't sound like much, but it really does add a whole lot. Time to decide what the final sequence of music is going to be. I wonder, do I have this track from a certain game? I might not. Alright, that's from there. This is from there. You know what? It's fine. I'll go with it anyway. That's right, number 5 is none other than Super Smash Bros. Melee! I mean, Earthbound. How could it not make my top 10? Earthbound is one of my most cherished games ever made. There's something very, very special about it. Part of it is definitely rooted in nostalgia. You gotta acknowledge your biases. But yeah, Earthbound came out, well, a bit before my time, honestly. I didn't know about it until I played Super Smash Bros., but when I finally got around to playing it, like, that was a very influential time in my life. And at that point, you know, Ness's adventures were my adventures. I was, like, imagining myself in his shoes, going on all these kooky adventures, exploring seemingly ordinary urban and suburban neighborhoods, finding all kinds of weird alien activity, making all kinds of friends along the way, rooting through garbage bins, you know, the whole 9 yards. And you know what? This game has given me a lot to come back to over the years. It all started when I found out how to get Pooh's frickin' Sword of Kings. Found out that I would have to replay the game and go and fight a specific enemy at a specific part in the game, otherwise I'd lose the chance at that forever. And it was a 1 in 128 drop chance. But gosh darn it, it was special and it was unique, and I put work into it, and it paid off. Well, not really. The stats on the Sword of Kings is trash compared to the amount of work you have to go into to... whatever. That doesn't matter. Point being, there's a lot to re-experience when you go through this game on subsequent playthroughs. You'll notice a lot of things that you didn't see before. You'll go back to previous towns, talk to people, and get new dialogue that you didn't realize was going to happen. Oh, and how could I forget? There's a lot of dungeons that you can do out of order, if you so choose. Like, basically you only have to complete the first dungeon in Giant Step, and then you can go about collecting the other melodies in any order you want. Think that the Lilliputian Cave is too tough for Paula to endure? Well, just go do some other stuff and come back later. You can pick it up at any time before the endgame. In fact, part of me wants to see what happens when you go through almost the entire game, without any melodies collected. Or hell, if I even use, like, cheats to skip past the required ones. Wouldn't that be interesting? Now, as regulars of this channel know, this is a game that I replay every year. If not Earthbound, then at least a game from the Mother series. And I'm looking to make a return to it next February. Maybe with a ROM hack of some sort. I have heard that there are a number of RPG ROM hacks that basically turn it into a roguelike experience by plunging you into a randomized series of rooms, giving you random equipment and supplies to start with, and the stuff you learn is random, and you basically just gotta tough it out until you finish them all. I might end up doing something like that with Earthbound, if I don't find, like, a superior ROM hack to play with it. And no, I'm not talking about the Halloween hack. Toby Fox's Halloween hack will be reserved for a special occasion. I'm not playing it on a birthday month. Sorry to say. But someday I would like to give that a try, just to see where the big man got his start. What else can I say about this game that hasn't already been said? Well, it's the laissez-faire approach to the gameplay that I appreciate most about it. I talked about how Mother 3, the strong narrative, was both a blessing and a curse. I called it a curse because I had so much more fun replaying Earthbound compared to Mother 3. Just being able to re-experience the narrative at my own pace, doing things as I wanted to do them. It almost makes me wonder what would happen if we got a new game in the Mother series that was, like, as non-linear as the first Legend of Zelda, or even Breath of the Wild. That's a thing from my wildest dreams, of course. But who knows? A fan could make it happen. I wonder what the newest details are with Oddity. I wonder if their Twitter handle is still the same. Hang on a minute, let me check real quick. They have almost certainly migrated to a new oh, no. They're still calling themselves Mother 4 Game. Except, wait, no, now they're redirecting people to a new Twitter account called Oddity RPG. Okay, there we go. Now it's all solved. For some reason, they have art of the main character of their game with Toe Jam and Earl. What in the world? Well, anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let me see, I should probably keep going with this list before it gets too late. Coming in at number 4 is another game going in a very different direction. Oh, look at that! It's Pikmin 2! I talked about how Pikmin 3 didn't quite live up to the standard that Pikmin 2 set because Pikmin 2 set a sky-high standard for the series. It's almost kind of miraculous that they made it work so well. Let me break it down for you like this. There's a lot of stuff to collect, there's big areas to explore, and the dungeons that you explore for most of the game are randomized. See, there's that common thread again. Randomization is key to instantly gratifying replayability. Like, I heard Vinny mention this the other day on one of his live streams. Imagine if there was such a thing as a randomizer for films. And you could just watch something like The Godfather, or The Lord of the Rings, or something. Like it was the first time all over again, because certain narrative points had been shuffled around randomly. It might not always make sense, but it would be different, and it would be interesting and engaging, and you might even catch on to some things that you hadn't noticed before. And now that I said that out loud, that almost sounds like the entire point of YouTube poop. It's to randomly shuffle around elements from cartoons and movies, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, the randomized dungeons were so unpredictable. You see the thing that I have captured in the screenshot? That's never happened to me. I've never had the opportunity to lump these 3 enemies together into one spot where I could just watch them and make fun of them as they fail to climb a wall. Their locations are random. You never know where they're gonna be. In some cases, it can get downright nasty. They'll hide, like, bomb rocks and avalanches in places where you least expect. And sometimes they'll get nastier still. They won't drop these traps until there is specifically a Pikmin carrying something underneath it. You can't bait it out any other way. That, I suppose, is another reason why Pikmin 2 ranks so high on my list, is because it is the hardest Pikmin game to date. They don't pull any punches. They expect you to lose a lot of Pikmin, and if you're in the middle of a dungeon, ooh, tough luck, buddy. You gotta press on with what you got. You can't regrow things underground. They had little things to help alleviate that, make it not quite as harsh. But yeah, really raised the stakes for those randomized dungeons, and while I somewhat agree with the people that say that they detract from the design philosophy of Pikmin, that doesn't change the fact that it was my favorite thing about Pikmin 2. I want to go back to that and do the dungeons again. I want to see a new dungeon editor. I want to see a randomizer. I want to see all these elements and more. So, yeah. I guess adding to the flavor is the fact that the stuff you're going around collecting is like real-world items with real-world brands printed on them. And that was just hilarious to find. You never know what old, like, cola brands you're gonna see represented in-game next. Oh, jeez, we're already here to the top 3. Well, I'm gonna spoil something for you. They're kinda samey. And I could probably lump them all into one group, but the fact of the matter is, I love Paper Mario. Yes, indeedy. And the N64 Classic comes in at number 3, because it is near and dear to my heart, but it's a simple, tried-and-true fact that the games that came after it have done it better. But this is where it all got started. And you know what? To this day, it has a very unique visual and stylistic charm to it that hasn't quite been matched. It's got this handcrafted pop-up storybook feel to it. And the visuals are just so moody and enchanting. The place I have depicted there is Shooting Star Summit, which has a ground texture that changes depending on what Y position it's at. You've got mood lighting that illuminates different parts of Mario depending on which direction he's facing. You've got the stars falling in the foreground, you've got the stars stuck inside of the ground. It's that game that makes Arlo cry! One of several, unfortunately. But yeah, and then you've got all the creativity that came from this game. So many good designs that they just never came back to for the partner characters as well as for the boss enemies. You know what a lot of people remember about Paper Mario? The Koopa Brothers. You know, those knockoff Ninja Turtles characters. They were so well beloved that people, like, cheered when they appeared in the fan animation Super Mario Bros. Z. Despite the fact that they're just multicolored Koopas, but they had such memorable dialogue written for them. It was just a real treat. While the writing may have been upheld to the same level of quality to this day in the most recent Paper Mario games, the designs have not. They've suddenly gotten saddled with this really restrictive and painful to watch design philosophy by people with more control over it than them. Saying that you have to make sure that everything looks this way. They have to abide by the Bible of Mario, or else we will never fund this game. And so that's what they do. You know what's funny? The original Paper Mario games had more frames of animation per character than modern Paper Mario games do. I'm serious, you look at, like, Color Splash on the Wii U, and they have, like, Game & Watch levels of animation on their frames. I guess the thing that they were going for was having them animate more with, like, papery movements? But still is just a terrible look, and I don't know why they've stuck with it all these years. At least with Paper Mario, they're animated like regular sprites, and they're given a decent amount of frames to work with. Wow, that was a lot of talking about the game without actually mentioning, like, the game, and, like, how it plays. Okay, let me make it simple for you. Equipment that changes your abilities, experience points that are simple, numbers in general that are simple and easy to keep track of, and a colorful variety of partner characters to keep things interesting makes for a very fun experience. None of those things I just mentioned are present in the newest Paper Mario games. Again, I'm going to redirect you to Steve Gaming, who pretty much summed up the Paper Mario series exactly in that way. Oh no, it's murder. Number 2 will be no surprise for people that saw my live stream of this game last year, but Bug Fables very nobly follows in the footsteps of Paper Mario. It does so with aplomb, I might say? That's a word I've never used before. But yeah, with vigorous aplomb, Bug Fables goes where Nintendo dares not tread. It's got colorful characters, vibrant personalities, NPCs that have a lot of, not significance, but a lot of personality. NPCs that you can keep coming back to for more dialogue that are just so expressive. And so varied in their designs. Like, the designs of the characters are so unique and memorable. I love them. Oh, by the way, I had a hard time finding a good image to represent Bug Fables. And at least at one point, I, through Google Images, found foot fetish artwork of this character depicted here, Tangerine. The cartoony orange beetle with human feet. Yeah, I wish I hadn't seen that, and you guys probably wish I hadn't mentioned it, but the curse can only be removed from me if I spread it around to other people. Anyway, there's even more in the works for Bug Fables. Sorry, there was more in the works for Bug Fables. It's done now. I haven't played it yet. I need to play this update at some point in 2021, so look forward to that. I've said that a few times, but it bears repeating. Now, Bug Fables takes what was good about Paper Mario and amplifies it significantly for people that are looking for a challenge. Like, the amount of things that you can do to tweak the difficulty for yourself is unprecedented, I want to say. The fact that hard mode is a on and off toggle equipment piece with its own unique rewards, like, that's just a fantastic thing to have around. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the enemy encounter sliders in Bravely Default, and how that in and of itself made Bravely Default feel like such a better game than some of the Final Fantasy games that preceded it. The game gives you a lot of control over what your characters are capable of. And it is just way too much fun experimenting with all the possibilities. So, what can I say? If you like Paper Mario, you'll love Bug Fables. Helps that every single character is cute as a button, too. And, yeah, you there in the chat, you guessed it correctly. Number 1 thing on the list is yet another Paper Mario game. I think I found my favorite, like, style of game, period. It's RPGs with a colorful cast of characters, a strong but not too full of itself narrative, and simple combat that is fun to master. Yes, that's a good way to sum it up, I suppose. Oh, and simple but substantial equipment that does more than just upgrade your numbers. Yeah, that's another good one. So, yeah, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door is easily the best game of all time, as you can tell. Actually, it had some stiff competition with Bug Fables, I have to say. Thousand Year Door does have its shortcomings. It's still not a perfect game. There are certain elements of its map design that really need to be reworked, and there is way too much backtracking in certain parts of the game. At least 2. Make that 3. I thought of at least 3 off the top of my head without even trying, where you are literally just zigzagging back and forth the same place 3 or 4 times before you're allowed to proceed any further. And that is just atrocious. So I feel like Bug Fables was overall stronger in the map regard. And you know what? It was stronger in a number of regards, too. So why did I rank Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door higher? Well, part of it's probably a nostalgia factor, but this is going to sound a little bit weird, but the animation style is part of what won me over into giving Thousand Year Door the #1 spot. It's hard to explain without showing it in motion, but the Thousand Year Door characters are constantly in motion. They're very fluid. They don't use frames of animation. They're basically rigged. Almost like paper puppets, now that I think about it. You know, each individual limb, each individual body part, each individual piece of clothing is basically mapped to a different joint, and they constantly sway around in rhythm with each other. And it just makes the game feel so alive that every character is doing this at all times. And I know that this is popular in certain, like, mobile games, but I feel like for, like, a big adventure like this, I just don't see that very often. And something about this style of animation just really, really appeals to me. I can't quite explain why. Bug Fables, of course, was more along the lines of limited frames of animation, as was Paper Mario, and then Sticker Star happened, and they just decided, yeah, you know, 2 frames of animation is fine, we'll just make him fold a little bit as he walks. But yeah, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is just a treat for the eyes if you can, like, get it to run at 60 FPS. I did a live stream of it somewhat recently, with all kinds of bells and whistles attached to it, and it was great. It was great. It was beautiful to look at, great to experience all over again. And did I already mention the character design? Because that is also just as phenomenal as ever. The villains were really memorable. The X-Nauts, what a unique design. They were like weird spacemen that had like cat ear hoods. And their commander was just some kind of cybernetic weirdo with a big glass dome for a head. I know we've kind of seen that sort of thing before, but oh, wait a minute. That doesn't even touch on like the Papercraft monsters. Yeah, the robot, the dragon. I'm sure there's at least one more that I'm forgetting. Oh right, the pirate captain was also built like that. Yeah, the big skull ghost. That was pretty cool. Seeing all those feathers come out like paper folds. It's not quite origami, but I think it is also still just as cool. Well, I think that just about covers it all. Yes, indeedy. Now, I do still have my full list up and available, so I could take a moment to go through the bottom 5 or something like that. Yeah, you know what I could do? I could take a moment to tell you guys the absolute worst game in each genre that I have entered into this list, and I'll explain why I feel so negatively towards it. That'll be a fun way to wrap this up, right? Let me find one other piece of music to play while I do this. Maybe something a little bit sillier. Let me see here. Alright, I'm gonna go with this one for now. So here's the stinkers on my list. Starting with 2D platformers. This is easily the biggest section on my list, by the way. It got a whopping, Oh, hey, I guess I can just show this to you guys, actually. Let me go ahead and see if I can bring it on screen, so you have something to look at. Oh, wait, it's just right there. Okay, thanks. I didn't even have to pick it. Oh gosh, but it's like zoomed way... No, it's cropped really badly. Let me fix that. Alright, there we go. There's the proof. I made a whole friggin' spreadsheet for this. Oh, I completely forgot about the mods section of the spreadsheet. Yeah, I was tracking whether or not mods and randomizers impacted my enjoyability of a game. So in the case of something like Mario Maker 2, well, that game's pretty much nothing but mods and custom levels, in a manner of speaking. So that definitely elevated its position on my list. That also elevated Super Mario World a little bit higher than it would have ranked otherwise, because there's some really good randomizers out there for it. But anyway, down here at the very bottom of the platformers list, we have Mega Man 3. Easily the worst platformer I have ever played. Besides Ice Climbers. But, did I even put Ice Climber in this list? Okay, you know what? It's Ice Climber. That's the worst of the worst. But just shy of that is Mega Man 3. This is why I told you that it would not necessarily be a bad idea to include multiple games from the same franchise on your list. Just because they share a franchise does not mean they share a level of quality. And nowhere is that more apparent than with Mega Man 3, coming right off the heels of the massively successful and popular Mega Man 2. Ugh, what a slog this game was. Mega Man 3 was all about repetition, I suppose is a way to phrase it. You fight the same mini-boss, Proto Man, over and over again. He even has his own stage dedicated to him. You have to repeat 4 of the stages that you beat before you can proceed any further. Remixed to be slightly harder, and you have to fight the Dock robots, which are all repeats of Robot Masters from Mega Man 2. And then you get to the end game, and it was like, you get to Wily's castle, and it's like the developers just ran out of ideas. One of them is literally just a vertical chute with tons of power-ups and pickups, and occasionally, like, a dinky-looking robot that throws trash at you. Whoa. What happened to the music? Okay, I guess I gotta play something else. Alright, I'm gonna play something completely at random and hope that's not terrible. Something that's not a jingle, please. What do we got here? Whoa. It's Luigi's Mansion with every single stem playing at once. Yeah, that's gonna be real distracting to listen to. What else we got? Hey, that's not bad. This is from Miitopia, a game that didn't quite make the list, but still ranks fairly high on my list of favorite RPGs. Alright, that's enough about Mega Man 3. Let's see what else we got here. Worst 3D platformer, Donkey Kong 64, unfortunately. I still love the game in certain aspects, but it just has not aged very well. It's just a pain in the ass to complete. Even if you're just trying to go for the bare minimum ending, you still gotta collect all the banana medals, you still gotta play Jetpack, you still gotta play Donkey Kong the arcade game, still gotta do a lot of dumb minigames. Ugh. There are so many things I would change about DK64 to make it more palatable to a modern audience. Let you swap Kongs everywhere. Don't require the arcade games to complete the game. And you know what? Just ditch the minigames altogether. Like, make them once... Like, how about just one minigame per world? Yeah, that sounds good to me. And make sure they friggin' work. Because, yeah, some of them are just straight up busted. And they're basically impossible to win unless you're abusing save states. Or you're just really good and you know exactly how broken they are so that you can manipulate the game in your favor. Ugh. But hey, the premise is fun. It's a 3D collect-a-thon with Donkey Kong characters. It's a lot of platforming and shooting, and the boss fights are cool. But it could have done so much better. My least favorite action-adventure game. This was a weird one. I almost just called this straight-up Zelda games. But somehow Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge made it onto that list, so whatever. Phantom Hourglass easily is my least favorite Zelda game. Primarily because of the controls, but also because it just feels kinda ho-hum, following in the direct footsteps of the Wind Waker. Like, the Wind Waker really engrossed me with its world, and the characters, and the islands, and the history of Hyrule and all that, and then Phantom Hourglass, it feels like all that just kinda got flushed, and what's left is not all that compelling. And did I already mention the controls? Because I can't stand moving with a touch screen. Ugh. No, Phantom Hourglass is not for me, but hey, we can take a break from the negativity to mention a very honorable mention. Hypnospace Outlaw, the internet browsing game. Yes, as far as like point-and-click style adventures go, I would definitely rank this as my favorite one of them all. It's not a genre that I usually get too invested in, but hey, if any of us are experienced with something, it may as well be surfing the net. And the time capsule aspect of it, of being able to revisit, like, late 90s internet, ugh. It's annoying, but also very endearing. So, definitely a high recommendation from me if you want a story to get lost in. Come to think of it, this is a very strong contender for a game for me to livestream in 2021, because there is modding functionality. You can build your own web pages and explore those that other people have made, so that should be a lot of fun. How the hell did Pokemon Channel make it onto this list? Well, alright, if you want the worst point-and-click adventure game I've ever played, it's probably Pokemon Channel, but that's more because of a lack of anything to do than anything else. For what it is, it's fine. If you just want a simple little time killer with Pikachu, it's fine. The cartoons were kind of cute. But as a game, it's not really compelling at all. Again, I can't believe I even remember this game. I still have a copy of it. Let's see what else we got here. Smash Brothers, least favorite fighting game, but that's mostly by virtue of me not playing very many fighting games. I still love Super Smash Brothers on N64. But, as you can see, the pool of fighting games I've played is so limited that it's just like, eh. Doesn't really make a difference one way or the other, which one is the best and worst. Least favorite Metroidvania, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, I'm sorry to say. I just do not like that game. Compared to the Great Cave Offensive from Kirby Superstar, I don't know, there's just so many ways that the Amazing Mirror falls flat for me. The many ways that you can run into dead ends or lose vital abilities that block off access to other places. And heck, some of the things that you do need to get to new places are really annoying to carry around with you. If I remember correctly, Mini and Metal were introduced in that game, and those slow you down so badly. It might have been better if not for the, like, general shakiness, I guess, of the Game Boy Advance Kirby games. I don't know how to describe it. I just feel so frail in the Game Boy Advance Kirby games with how little I can see around me and how quickly I die and lose my powers. You get the idea. There's a bunch of junk strumbled into a single incongruent pile. The miscellaneous category, worst thing I've ever played here, is Wii Music. Well, to summarize it quickly, I got this as a gift in the hopes that it would be like a music composition program for a Wii. Like, I wanted a DAW, is basically what I wanted. Instead, I got a noisemaker. So, yeah, that was one of the biggest letdowns I ever got from a Wii game. Moving on. Puzzle games. Some very good puzzle games in here. I'm very much inclined to go ahead and include Mario's Super Picross here. Because I just got completely wrapped up in Picross fever this past year. I'd never really given it a shake before, but after starting, I could not stop. And the themed bundle with Mario and Wario was really cute too. I liked it a lot. Worst puzzle game, kind of by default, is The Bridge, which is an indie game on the Switch where you basically, all you can do to control yourself is a very slow left and right movement and the ability to use the shoulder buttons to rotate the entire world around you. Which sounds cool on paper, but it's just so slow. Ugh. And some of the puzzles are really obtuse, so wouldn't really recommend it unless you're really keen on puzzle games. Worst racing game, Super Mario Kart. Not that big of a fan, they just hadn't perfected the mechanics yet. I liked it when I was a kid, back before I had any other options, but ever since Mario Kart 64, the future has been brighter and brighter for racing games, and I've never looked back. Mario Kart Super Nintendo is just way too janky for me. Well, I guess I did pretty good for balancing the list out. Out of the top 50, only 8 of them were RPGs, despite 45 RPGs being in this list altogether. So, what was the worst one? Great Greed. Not really a lot to say about that one. The worst thing about it is how nothing it is. Quest 64 was just plain unfinished. It's a cool idea for a game. I'll have to show it off on stream someday, because I actually own a copy of it, but, yeah, Quest 64 was just straight up unfinished. And then Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow. Sorry, you ended up at the very bottom of the barrel because I can't stand replaying these games nowadays. Same goes for Diamond, Pearl, Platinum. They're just way too sluggish for me to get used to nowadays. I would rather play an old-school Final Fantasy or Phantasy Star over old-school Pokemon. Gold and Silver turned out fine. I would replay them pretty regularly, but these groups, nah, not as much. I suppose a remake is right about what the 4th gen Pokemon games need about now. I listed Pokemon Snap as a shooter game. Well, sure, why not? Hang on, I wanted to change the music real quick. There we go. Something a little bit low-key to end the stream on. So, yeah, Pokemon Snap, I like it a lot. It's just I have barely played any shooter games in any substantive amount, so by default, Pokemon Snap lands down there because I like the other games that much more. Including Kid Icarus Uprising, which I absolutely hate the control scheme of, but everything else about it is so good that I can kinda look past it a little bit. Animal Crossing for the GameCube ranks as my single lowest simulation type game. Sorry about that. But, yeah, that's just way too tedious of a game for me to even think about getting back into nowadays. Thank goodness we have New Horizons. As you can see, that placed number 2 on the list. I'll go back to that someday, but I don't think I'll ever go back to GameCube Animal Crossing. Oh, sports games. Never mentioned any of them. Well, here's an honorable mention for Mario Power Tennis for the GameCube. Very straightforward, fun tennis fun, and the cutscenes are hilarious. N64 Mario Golf, on the other hand, is obtuse and weird, and I don't like it. And that's about all I have to say about that, because I don't play sports games much at all. Ever. So, moving on. Advance Wars Worst Ranked Strategy Game. That is mostly by virtue of it being the worst out of the Advance Wars series, because the others just kept on improving. What kills the first Advance Wars the most is how insanely hard the main campaign is. And well, you thought that was bad. Wait until you unlock the harder difficulty mode. Then it becomes almost impossible. I don't know what they were thinking. But aside from that, it's fun enough. Map builder's fun. Multiplayer is fun. Early campaign is fun. Animations are cool. I like the style of it. And that's about all I have to say about Advance Wars. Least favorite tactical RPG. That is stuff like Final Fantasy Tactics and the Fire Emblem games, of course. In fact, 99% Fire Emblem games, and Shadow Dragon is my least favorite out of all of them. Who'd have guessed? That's the game where you have to kill off your team members in order to unlock new ones. Yay! Yeah, on any given chapter, in order for you to unlock a new side chapter, you are not allowed to have more than 15 party members, including Marth. That's just a done deal. I don't know why the crap they did it that way. That's the most boneheaded thing I've ever seen out of any game. Also, the reclassing system is janky and weird and unbalanced, and I don't like it. And the art style is very plain and boring, and I hate it. Like, seriously, it may be the single ugliest Fire Emblem game to me. But then again, I've never played the original Fire Emblem all the way through, so maybe I'll have to give that a try someday and see if that takes the cake for ugliest Fire Emblem. And finally, my least favorite visual novel, if you can even call it that, is Telltale's Game of Thrones. that was just a huge disappointment in the making that I regretted spending money on. I regretted getting hyped for it. Part of that may have been soured over time because of the general, you know, ending of the TV series and the fact that we still don't have the book series completed yet. So, yeah, Game of Thrones hype is just completely gone for me. I can't imagine ever returning to Telltale's Game of Thrones. I have a hard time imagining returning to any Telltale game, besides, you know, the Homestar Runner one, because that one's actually good, but the others, all these episodic games, no thank you. Don't want to go back to any of them. So there's my list. There's my list, dominated by 2D and 3D platformers and RPGs of various flavors. Hope you guys enjoyed listening along. Hope you guys are going to enjoy your new year. I think it's going to be looking up very strongly for me personally. I think as soon as we all get vaccinated, we can get our lives back on track. There's so many things that I wanted to do, but didn't feel safe to do. So, looking forward to seeing how the next year turns out. Pro tip, don't keep any, like, stern New Year's resolutions for 2021. Just don't. Ease yourself of the stress, and just make 2021 a year of recovery. That's what I'm gonna do. I'll still have my ambitions, but I won't hold myself to the torch for them. No, 2021 is just a year to stabilize. So that's it for now. Hopefully I'll be seeing you guys again soon. I'll be back next week with Crystal Chronicles and probably DKC 2. I keep saying I'm gonna get around to it, but I never do. But I promise I will, eventually. Also next week I'll probably start planning out a calendar for when I'm gonna approach all these ROM hack projects next year. So, I guess we'll look forward to that. My throat is very dry. I gotta get some cold water right the dang now. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you guys later. Have a good night and a good year.